Allen Sports Desk, a Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
Jeff Rust with your Sports Center update. First on The Fan, the NBA draft is finally upon us. The Trailblazers hold the number 11 pick in what could be a busy evening. Basically, though, a foregone conclusion, the Mavericks will take Cooper Flagg with the number 1 pick. Coverage on 910 ESPN Portland starts at 4:30. Picks begin just after 5 on ABC, ESPN, or NBA TV. ESPN's Shams Charania reporting the Rockets declining the $44.9 million option on guard Fred VanVleet, but also intend to sign him to a 2-year, $50 million extension to stay in Houston with a player option in 2026-27. On the diamond, the Mariners have won 4 of their last 5. They have got game 3 of 4 with the Twins in Minneapolis this afternoon. George Kirby on the bump for Seattle. Joe Ryan for Minnesota. 4:40 first pitch on Root Sports. The Mariners remain second in the AL West, 4.5 games back of the Astros. And NFL insider Jordan Schultz reporting the Seahawks signing former Pro Bowl cornerback Shaq Griffin to a 1-year deal, base of $3 million and a chance to earn another $1 million. Griffin was in Seattle for the first 4 years of his career before splitting time with the Jaguars, Texans, Panthers, and Vikings the last 4 seasons. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. I'm Jeff Rust from the George McCoy at Warren Allen Sports Desk. Hurt and missing work, insurance companies acting like jerks. Don't call your mom. Call George McCoy at warrenallen.com.
More, please. Golf in the Northwest with Jason Swigart is back. Saturdays at 8 a.m. before the Sinner and the Saint on Portland's sports leader, 1080 The Fan. This is Danny and Dusty.
Meringatang is going to be a thing.
You're not coining anything new.
With Danny Meringue and Dusty, the Fan Man Hera.
I'll throw some monkey sounds in there and call it good.
The old Danny Meringue pie?
Danny and Dusty on the Odyssey app and 1080.
Yeah, this is going to be awesome.
The Fan.
Good afternoon. Hey, welcome in. How's everybody doing today? Happy Wednesday, everybody. Day after Wilsonville Toyota presents the 11th Annual Fan Golf Classic out at Langdon Farms Golf Club, brought to you by Henderson and Daughter Windows and Doors and Philbrook Law, accident and injury attorneys. Look, that was a hell of a day we had out at Old Langdon yesterday.
It was.
Golf clap all the way around.
There we go.
Golf clap all the way around. Because it was a golf tournament, we will golf clap. Thank you to everybody that came out and played yesterday. We had a hell of a lot of fun out there at Langdon yesterday. That was a great event.
It was, and I love this, and I always joke about it's my favorite. It's my favorite thing that we do. It's absolutely awesome. It's all day. It's golf. It's booze. It's all the listeners. It's all the sponsors. It's good food, good times. Like if you're out there and you're not having a great day,
Yeah.
something's wrong, man.
Yeah.
Just genuinely, I'm gonna recover for a couple of days.
Oh, really?
That's for sure.
What happened to you?
I discovered the tequila based transfusion.
Okay.
Had a lot of those, and shout out to Angels Envy setting up next to us with the triple oak barrel whiskey.
I don't understand the transfusion.
You don't know what a transfusion is?
Well, like a blood transfusion.
No, it's
No.
a beverage.
Yeah.
And
Never heard of it.
It's really damn good.
It's quite refreshing.
It's got, traditionally you have vodka, grape juice, some ginger ale in
That
there.
sounds delightful.
It
Yeah.
is delightful.
I just
it's
swapped-
great,
Yeah.
great,
You said grape, not grapefruit.
grape.
Great.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it goes down smooth. So I swapped out the old vodka for the tequila, and boy, was it tasty.
Yeah.
We had 2 hands full of those, and then seemingly every group. I mean, this is what we do. We set these vendors and sponsors up with the booze on the holes, and so everybody comes up and they have a shot before they, go up to the hole. And, well, damn near every group is like, "Hey, Ryan, come do a shot with us."
Hey.
And so that's
how it goes.
a lot of groups.
Well, and it was sunny out.
Oh,
And
yeah.
it was, you tried to tell me that you weren't dehydrated.
Yeah, but I drank like 9 or 10 bottles of water and didn't pee.
That's dehydrated, Danny. That is not, you're not defying
I defied
any,
science.
no, you're
No,
not.
I didn't.
You're not. No, you were dehydrated.
Yeah,
man.
probably the contributing factor to my back being what it ended up being.
What?
My back being a complete and utter tight mess.
Well, shocking. Your body's breaking
Yeah,
down.
yeah.
This is not a surprise to anybody that's out there.
If you're watching on the YouTubes, you will see my face. I did develop quite the raccoon eyes.
Well, yeah,
I-
you're outside. I'm sure
Look,
you didn't sunscreen either when you were out there.
Did not sunscreen, but I did have the straw hat on all day, covering the face. So.
But you go. This is the ultimate meringue experience here. You sit there and you're like, I don't know how this happened.
Yeah.
And then you go down and you list all of the reasons why all of these things happened. You're like, I just don't know. It's a mystery to me how my back is hurting. I'm dehydrated and I have
I'm very warm.
tan lines everywhere.
Yeah.
It's like, well, you were outside drinking booze all day, taking golf shots all day long.
Yeah, it was a great time.
I mean, my goodness, my
zero
man.
complaints.
It was an awesome time and it was an awesome event. I love when we can get our listeners together and we can get everybody together. It doesn't happen very often. We had this conversation when Jeff Austin retired and we were at his retirement party, that all of our shows, we really only get together 1 or 2 times per year.
Now we've done 2 this year with Jeff Austin's retirement and the golf tournament.
We have gotten 2 already in, and it's always a blast when everybody gets together. I think that's one thing that is really cool about our station, the people that we have that work here, whether it is the all day parts from Dirt and Sprague to us, to Isaac and Souk, to our weekend shows and our weekly shows that we have. When everybody gets together, it's a great time. Rashad came out.
Yep.
Schultze came out. Like Ortner was out there playing golf and
barely standing.
Yep, being Big Will all over the place. But obviously Joe Fish and Luke, who are sales bros and on-air guys for us, when everybody can get together, it is a blast. We had Rusty out at the producer's hole. Russ got a workout in. Is that the most rigorous exercise that you have had in how long?
It's been a little while because I wasn't exactly taking my time walking out there. I was walking at a pretty good pace.
Russ, we had our producer's corner where they were taking pictures and meeting with folks. When we set this up, producer's corner, I was like, well, yeah, we'll have, when the guys aren't there, aren't doing their show back here at the studio, they'll be out there. Well, I was out there for basically the opening round, and I loved it. It was great mixing it up with people out there. But when Rust got there, he didn't have a ride out to the 12th hole from the clubhouse.
Yeah.
So our man's over there started hoofing it.
There you go.
Walked out to the 12th.
He walked out there, and you were walking back too.
Walked back. Yeah. Because I remember when I got there, I texted you. I said, "All right, party's here. Who's coming to get me?"
Yeah.
But I didn't know that you were like playing.
I was in the afternoon round playing, and I did not get that text. I was like, what is going on here? See, this is what happens when you're a green bubble guy.
Right.
My iPhone just was like, no, not today. Not from that guy. Not today, Pally.
Yeah.
But it was awesome to see all of our listeners, our P1s, our clients who are awesome and come through for all of our listeners, making sure that event is special and it's unique. It was a cool day, and thank you to everybody who came out and played. Thank you to all of our sponsors that made it possible. It was really cool. And as I was out there, I got asked like, "Hey, like, why are you giving up your show to do this management thing?" As I'm putting together like the backdrop of 1080 by myself, and I don't know how to do this. I'm like, I don't know. But the answer is events like that and days like that. That is 100% why I love this station. I love the people that listen to it and support it. We've got a really good core of people that listen to the station, care about the station, and it shows in days like we have yesterday. From the listeners who come out and play to the sponsors that take care of our golfers when they're out there. It was like exactly why the fan is awesome. Our listeners are the best. And like, I want to keep building that event up and start bringing more to people so we can have all of our listeners out celebrating how awesome our city is, because it is, and it's been crapped on a lot. And the people that are on this station, because we've got a good group of people that work here, and the more that we can get out and see everybody, the better off it is. So thank you to everybody who came out, whether you were a golfer, a sponsor. It was awesome.
Yeah, no, it's always just it's an event that I look forward to every year, and hopefully we can start doing even more stuff like this.
Maybe one of these days I'll be able to make it out there for more than just like 2 hours in the late afternoon.
Yeah, it's true.
Maybe you could have gotten there at 6 a.m. with Danny and I.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah,
but I got to be here at 9.
Yeah, you could
know?
have been like me getting up at 4:30 after going to bed at 12:30 the night
It was
before.
great. See, again, you're like, how is this happening to me? Go to bed earlier.
Well, blame the Blazers.
No, I will not.
Mm.
That is the downside to what happened yesterday.
Yeah. Great timing, Blazers.
I'm getting ready. I'm like, I got a long day. I'm going to unwind early. I'm going to go to bed. Wrong,
Yeah.
wrong, wrong. Holy guacamole.
Of all the days to not have it. And when we talked about this, the golf tournament and the draft being back to back, I mentioned this. I'm like, there's gonna be something that
Yeah.
happens. And this was months ago. This was not like a precursor to this particular trade. I was like, that's a really inconvenient day.
Yep. Yep. Well, it was, boy, all hell is breaking loose in the NBA.
And it's going to get crazier.
It is draft day today.
Mm-hmm.
We are going to be NBA heavy today because we have the draft. We have Drew Part 2
Mm-hmm.
here in Portland, with Drew Holiday from the Boston Celtics coming over for Anthony Simons. And I think that on this draft day, we will get into all of that, but I want to start with the Drew Holiday trade.
Mm-hmm.
The Blazers acquired Drew Holiday for Anthony Simons and 2 second-round picks,
Mm-hmm.
going Boston's way. Why this deal? What does it mean for the team? And what is there about these rumors and rumblings that are coming out of Boston that Drew Holiday doesn't want to be in Portland?
Mm-hmm.
Danny and Dusty on the Fan.
Hello, sports fans.
Drew Holiday is a Portland Trailblazer. The Blazers on Monday night sending Anthony Simons to Boston along with 2 second-round picks for Drew Holiday, a casualty to a salary cap situation in Boston that we knew was just not tenable. They could not move forward with having 2 players north of $50 million. Drew Holiday north of $30 million. What is Porzingis' number? He also got traded, by the way.
Oh, God. He got traded into the trade exception for the Hawks, so it must have been 24.
They were in the crotch chop that second apron after they won the title and gave everybody money. And so we knew that there was going to be movement in Boston. I think all of Portland was a little bit surprised that Anthony Simons was part of a deal to send to Boston for Drew Holiday, who at one time was a Portland Trailblazer for 3 days?
Yeah, something.
It was like September 27th to October 1st.
There was enough time period where multiple teams got in on the bidding for Drew, and I remember during that process, the Blazers targeted Drew because they wanted Drew.
Mm-hmm.
And they knew other teams 100% wanted Drew, because Drew Holiday is very good, and he ended up being the key for Milwaukee and both Boston to win titles.
Look, I think that before we get into kind of the nitty gritty of what is going to transpire after this trade, I think on the surface, I don't think that you can sit there and go one way either side won the deal, right? It was a fair trade. I think that one thing that I actually come out of this and I appreciate is that we've seen this in previous regimes. We've seen it during this regime at times where you have got the Blazers have overvalued the guys that they have, and they hold on to them, and guys end up going for either pennies on the dollar or walk away for nothing, right? We've seen that before. I think that going and doing a fair value trade for a guy like Anthony Simons, who is in the extension eligible and going to be wanting to get an extension, you got what you wanted in return, which is a guy in Drew Holiday who fits the identity of what this Trailblazers team wants to be under Chauncey Billups. Defensive-oriented guard who's a facilitator, can knock down open shots, right?
And on top of that, high IQ, high feel, and leadership. The leadership one, and here's the thing. I don't think for everybody who's like, oh, you love everything the Blazers do. I'm kind of splitting the fence on this move. Number one, I love Drew Holiday. And his bona fides, if you want to read it, it's up on the Patreon. I wrote everything of the intel that I got on it following the trade. His bona fides are unquestionable. He's a 2-time champion for 2 different franchises. He's a 6-time All-Defensive Team member. He is a 2-time All-Star. He is an Olympic gold medalist. He is a 3-time Twyman Stokes Teammate of the Year winner. This is a guy, whether it's on the court, defensively, while also being capable of being your number 2 or number 3 offensive option, while also being a dude among dudes. Drew Holiday is one of the few guys in the NBA who, if you don't like him, that says more about you than it does about Drew.
Yep.
Not only as a person, but as a teammate, as a dude, like he gets it. And one of the reasons that I like this move is that the Blazers weren't lacking leadership; they were lacking the leader. And
I think that is lacking leadership.
Do you understand what I'm saying? They weren't lacking guys who could be leaders. They were lacking the leader,
and that is a lack of leadership.
That's fair.
I mean, if you don't have that guy that is your culture setter, then you're kind of wandering.
He's a tone setter.
Yep,
that's what he is. He is a walking, talking tone setter. He has lived it, breathed it. He is that guy. There is a less than probably 0% chance that he doesn't have the corner locker with the Trailblazers starting next season. And when you walk in that locker room, you know who everyone's looking to. And they're not looking to him to be the guy. They're looking for him to lead them. And I think that's the big thing. But also from a talent fit perspective, everybody knows how I feel about Ant. Drew Holiday is a better holistic overall player.
Mhm.
The question I have is, who's going to score?
Yeah. Well, that has been a problem for the Blazers
Mm-hmm.
with Anthony Simons,
Mm-hmm.
too.
And that's
Right.
and that's the thing. It's like a guy who is a dyed-in-the-wool floor stretcher, gravity guy, three-point shooter, off-the-bounce creator. They now don't have any of that.
Don't think you're going to get him at 11 tonight in the NBA draft
No.
either. So that is a bigger picture
Mhm.
thing that we will dive into. But I also look at it as Anthony Simons extension eligible this offseason. He would be getting Drew Holiday money.
Yes. So Drew, his deal is $33.6 million annual average value. I would expect that Ant ends up somewhere between 30 and 32.
So you are looking at a Drew Holiday situation where you have 2 plus a player option in that third year, where you have 3 years left of it. A proven commodity,
Mhm.
though older, and a veteran on a young team.
Mhm.
Okay. Where Ant, you would be paying him, hoping that he would continue to still grow.
Yeah.
Grow, especially on the defensive side of the ball. And you would have been in for far more years on that with a lot of unknowns. And that doesn't mean that Ant won't get that money and isn't worth that money. That is the money that a player like him
Yeah,
gets.
starter level money of guys who can average 20 a game and stretch the floor. That's the going rate.
And this is why it's a fair deal, is because Boston also gets what they want in that, look, Anthony Simons can walk at the end of the year
Mhm.
because they can't afford that deal.
And
And they need a scorer this year because Jason Tatum ain't playing.
No, and there is discussions around Ant potentially being moved again.
Could happen.
There that possibility is out there for sure.
Um,
Boston, and we'll talk about this a little bit later. Brother, there is beyond Drew and Porzingis. There's more smoke there.
there has to be.
Yeah.
Because they just got a fraction under the second apron now.
Mhm.
So at least they're within the
They're
parameters.
17 million away from the luxury tax.
Yeah,
now?
they're 17 million away from the first apron, and
Is that what
they're
it was? I'll get it
they're
full.
4 million clear of the
Second apron, yeah.
Second apron.
Yeah,
I mean,
they're not done,
no, and they need.
but they saved 250 million in luxury tax payments.
Jeez, just by those two
Yeah.
moves. There's something that you said there that has been a big topic of conversation about Drew Holiday. He is old.
Mhm.
He is not a scorer.
Mm-mm.
But he brings so many of those other things. You said he's going to be a corner locker room guy, where he's got that corner locker. That's where the leaders sit. That's where, when everybody turns their head over, they're looking to that spot. Do you bring Drew Holiday in to come off of the bench?
Hmm.
That conversation is, a valid one, and there's a lot of people having it. Because you have Scoot Henderson.
Yeah,
Because you have Shaden Sharp.
Well, here's the thing. There's a world that exists where Drew starts and so does Scoot.
Mhm.
They could look. Drew's played some too, and he's big, he's strong, and the thing I love about Drew, I'll go with the whole league sources have told me that they're comfortable with Drew Holiday at either spot, because and then one of the questions that I had after the trade was, looking at his age, I was told that the Blazers looked very closely at the tape last year. And even though there was some regression, they aren't worried about Father Time snatching his soul just yet. I asked if the plan was to start him, and I was told, well, it's still too early in the process. I mean, yeah. So, I've used this analogy God knows how many times. Break the pool cue up, throw Shaden and Scoot in the room, let them figure it out. Because if I'm running this team right now, I've talked about this over the last week, and you're going into the Denny-centric offense, which I think Drew is actually a good fit for, because Drew has been playing off ball for the last 5 years.
Yeah.
He's been playing off of Giannis, playing off the Jays very successfully. He does not need to see the ball. And his 3-point percentage was down to 36% last year. He's a career 38% 3-point shooter, and he's been doing it for 15 years. It's not when you've got a track record of that long, it's reputation. The floor spacing, he is going to afford that part of it. He can work off ball. He can toggle on when necessary. He can just kind of fit wherever. That's his skill set allows him to do that. But I start wondering, okay, if you start Scoot and Drew, what does that kind of look like offensively? Because Scoot, while he can get to the rim, his rim finishing, I think he was of the top 150.
Well, I'll tell you what, you don't need to defend the perimeter all that much.
Yeah, I trust Scoot more as a shooter than I do as a finisher. I said of the top 150 players to take the most shots at the rim last year, I think Scoot finished 145th or 146th.
Yeah,
was right in there, bottom 5, bottom 6 of the top 150. That's a problem. Like the guy who finished 150th, Trae Young, he also has gravity well beyond the three-point line, even though his three-point shooting is kind of taking a massive hit because of how prolific a playmaker he is and how nuclear hot he can get from three.
Yeah. I think that this trade and there's a lot of Rip City that is upset about this deal because Anthony Simons was liked. And I think that there was a framing for a very long time about Ant being like a guy who could be the cornerstone of this franchise for a very long time. This deal tells you a couple of things. One is that they weren't comfortable with Ant being a guy who wanted to be here long term. And two, I don't think that they looked down the barrel and they said, that's a guy who is going to be the cornerstone moving forward.
Yep.
And that's a dramatic change in the way that this organization was thinking. It had been framed for a very long time that he could be that guy. I think the organization is telling all of us no. And they made that decision, and they brought in a veteran. Look, this is, on the surface, you can sit there and you go, there's a lot of holes with the Portland Trailblazers, especially offensively moving forward. It also will tell you they're not done, and they cannot be done because this team would be lacking a scoring punch in an era where the NBA is playing faster.
The one aside, I got a text from a coach in the NBA 5 minutes after the deal. Y'all are going to guard the bleep out of teams.
Yep.
And that's the thing about this where I went, yeah, Drew, 2 on the perimeter, buddy, buckle up.
And then you Klingon defending the rim, DeAndre Ayton defending the rim for this year, right? You are seeing the identity that Chauncey Billups wants.
They're going to grind teams into paste.
It did not feel like Anthony Simons fit what Chauncey Billups wanted to do identity-wise. Now you're starting to see that take shape, and it's a gamble, man, because you lose that creator. What?
And they need to find it some. Again, I'm very interested to see what the Denny-centric offense looks like, but the whole the whole is better than the sum kind of a deal that we saw from the Pacers, they still had an engine in Tyrese Halliburton. And Pascal Siakam is an all-NBA player.
Yeah, those guys are pretty good.
Yeah, and so it's like the threshold is higher. And we saw this with Houston this last year when you're like, who's going to score?
Yeah.
With Orlando, it's like, yeah, Franz and Paulo are great, but who's going to be the guy that bends the defense? And that's the thing is I look at where they are right now. They've got downhill guys. They've got a ton of high-level role guys, but who's going to be the guy that bends the defense?
Last time, Drew Holiday was a Blazer for like 3 days. Will he be a Blazer longer? The draft is tonight, and there is a report from a well-sourced Boston reporter that says Drew Holiday is pissed to be a Portland Trailblazer. That's a quote from him. Validity to that after Rust with SportsCenter.
Now, from the George McCoy at Warren Allen Sports Desk, a SportsCenter update on 1080 The Fan.
This update brought to you by Laurelhurst Market Steakhouse and Butcher Shop, a great spot for any occasion. And don't forget, you save 10% on your Butcher Shop order when you dine in. Menus and more at laurelhurstmarket.com. First on The Fan, NBA Draft Day is finally upon us. The Trailblazers hold the number 11 overall pick. Should be busy this evening, but we know for sure, well, almost for sure, Dallas Mavericks going to take Cooper Flagg with the number 1 overall pick. Coverage on 910 ESPN Portland starts at 4:30. Picks begin just after 5 o'clock on ABC, ESPN, and NBA TV. ESPN Shams Charania reporting the Rockets declining the $44.9 million option on guard Fred VanVleet, but also intend to sign him to a 2-year, $50 million extension to stay in Houston with a player option in 2026-27. Mariners have won 4 of their last 5 games. They've got Game 3 of 4 with the Twins in Minneapolis this afternoon. George Kirby starting for Seattle, Joe Ryan for Minnesota, 4:40 first pitch on Root Sports. And NFL insider Jordan Schultz reporting the Seahawks signing former Pro Bowl cornerback Shaq Griffin to a 1-year deal. Base salary of $3 million with a chance to earn another $1 million. Griffin was in Seattle for the first 4 years of his career before splitting time with the Jaguars, Texans, Panthers, and Vikings over the last 4 seasons. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. I'm Jeff Rest from the George McCoy at Warren Allen Sports Desk. Hurt and missing work? Insurance companies acting like jerks? Don't call your mom. Call George McCoy at warrenallen.com.
The Fan is live on YouTube and Twitch. And now, Window Nation brings you on-demand videos. Watch Window Nation's window into 1080 The Fan.
Say a little shout out here. Welcome a brand new little P1. Baby Rufio
Hey!
is watching his first Danny and Dusty on the YouTube stream. So welcome to the S Show, little guy. Drew Holiday is now a Portland Trailblazer for the second time. There is a report.
Still fun to say that.
All-time Blazer great. There is a report that is out there from Boston beat writer Steve Bulpett.
From Heavy.com.
Heavy.com. He does a really good job covering the Celtics, though. And he said, according to a source close to the situation, Holiday is pissed he's going to Portland. His source went on to say, now, if he winds up staying there, I'm sure he'll be professional. He's always been and make a positive contribution, but he's not happy with this deal. I'll be surprised if Portland doesn't move him if they can, because right now he does not want to go there. I'm sure if he has to go to Portland, he'll end up going and it'll be okay. But right now they want to be somewhere else. But with that contract, it's not going to be that easy.
I mean, okay. So I did some digging on this and I reached out to folks and again, it's not a trade that's consummated, so nothing can be on record. So, but I will just say a source directly familiar with the situation has confirmed to me that this is not accurate.
Okay, so he's not pissed.
No.
All right. When is the last time that somebody was traded to Portland and we didn't hear that he was upset about coming. Even Denny Avdia, who was getting out of Washington. Remember, it was
It
hey,
caught him off guard.
He doesn't want to. He doesn't want to leave Washington
Yeah.
because there is an Israeli culture in
Community, and
Washington.
he felt loved and a part of everything.
And he's coming out to Portland where he doesn't know anything about Portland.
Yeah.
It's 3 more time zones away from being in his home time zone. Like all of those things. Every single guy that gets traded to Portland, we go through this, right? One thing that we do know about Drew Holiday is he is a consummate professional. Now, do I believe that Drew Holiday, in the twilight of his career, wants to be on a contending team and a winning team? Absolutely, everybody does. Portland is not that.
No.
And they won't be that. No. While Drew Holiday is still playing in the NBA, likely. But he will have a role. He will be featured, and he has been a pro everywhere that he's gone.
Again, I mentioned this before. Drew's a dude of dudes. He's a pro of pros. And I was told that basically Drew was let know more than a week ago that he was going to be moved because of the salary stuff. And that was, everybody knew. Like, of course, everybody knew that because everybody else can see the books, but he knew that he was going somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And because of his salary, there's only so many destinations.
Yeah.
Like, where does this fit? Where does this make sense? And he's a pro of pros. Is he frustrated that he's not competing for a title? Sure, any player would, but I was told he was not pissed about coming here from multiple sources.
What is what's the deal with the change of heart with the Blazers and Anthony Simons, though? Because that seems like a big turn from how they have always talked about Ant and their reluctance to part ways with him.
Look, I'll say it bluntly. Ant was caught off guard by the move. The reason that I have said that I would be more surprised that he was traded than extended, because that's where things sounded like they were going. That wasn't me just pretending. I was told that the Blazers, if they were going to move him, they were going to look for a shot creator in return, because there's just not many. For all the people who don't like Ant for this, that, or the other reason, when you look at what he's able to do in what he does in the offensive side of the ball, there's just not that many guys. Like, if you look at, I took his 3-year average, with 20 points, 4 assists, 3 rebounds, and guys that have over 37 or 38% from 3 and high volume. I think I put it at like 7.5.
Mm-hmm.
Every single player on the list, save one, was an all-star or all-NBA player. Even if you say Ant is at the bottom of that list, that just shows you how rare that skill set is. The ability to score, to do it efficiently, particularly in heavy volume from the three-point line. For all of the teams of the Orlandos and the fan bases out there, like, oh, we can go get this guy then. It's like, well, no, you had to pay all the capital in the world to go get Desmond Bane, because the ability to create shots from 3 on the offensive side of the ball, for as much as like, oh, you can just go get shooting, what does every team that ends up losing the playoffs end up doing? Oh, man, we needed more shooting.
Yeah.
Because it's a rare and hard commodity to find.
It is, but also with Ant, there was the other end of the floor was significantly, it was bad. And he wasn't as prolific of a shooter to get away with not being that good.
Yeah, and
defensively.
I think a lot of that has to do with some things that changed and working some things out, particularly as the season advanced. And I mean, most guys on that roster last year struggled to start the season because of so many changes and identity and roles kind of being ubiquitous. And I'm not saying that as an excuse for Ant. It's just, look at everybody. Everybody for the first 2 months of the season just struggled.
Yeah.
Up and down the roster. Nobody looked good for the first 2 months. And then you started to see guys understand roles and contributions and where to fit in. And again, this move happening caught everyone by surprise. And I was told that this was a deal that came together over a couple of days, and it was very, very quiet. But much like any transaction in the NBA, transactions are formed by a set of ideas in achieving goals and relationships. Joe did that deal with Boston with Drew 2 years ago. He knows Brad Stevens, working through those deals and having that communication and that established trust of like, hey, you've got your goals, I've got mine. Is there a spot that we can meet where we can accomplish both? And for, everybody says, or, one team fleeced the other or something like that. Not just this transaction, any transaction. If a team is accomplishing the goals they want to accomplish, that's the bottom line.
Yeah.
If, like with Boston right now, their goal is to slash payroll. And if they can, however they can do it, in the best possible way, they're going to do it. And if that makes sense for a team like Portland or Atlanta to get Drew Holiday or to get Kristaps Porzingis, that's the way you go down it. But it was a shift, I believe, as far as Anthony Simons is concerned. But I don't think this was a clear the deck because here comes Scoot and Shea. This was, we like Drew Holiday. We think he's good. We think as an overall talent perspective, he fits better what we want to do. While Drew is certainly going to be a mentor and a leader, I don't think they made this deal so that he can sit behind Scoot and Shea and be the cheerleader and lead them. Like this is not the Master Splinter Ninja Turtle thing. This is Drew Holiday's still a player and they think he's good.
He does have some tread left on the tires. It's not a lot. And I know that that's the gripe with a lot of people out there is like Ant has so much more NBA ahead of him. But there is this aspect of it too in that, look, the Blazers, and I will give them credit for this, and they did not overvalue him. And they made a deal that I think is a fair swap back and forth. And it's a two-way street, too, where they may have been having the conversations with Anthony Simons or hearing in league circles that maybe Ant wasn't just going to sign the extension and just be willing to stay in Portland, that he would have tested the free agent market, and then the guy walks for free, then you're sitting there with your pants down. You don't get anything in return.
No.
Now you have the ability to, and it will be difficult because that is a $33 million for Drew Holiday. To move that, but at least you have a shorter term on that deal where
It's
you can
not a
get
4 or
out of
5
it.
year deal.
No, it's 3 years left, and if Ant signs an extension, you're looking at 5 years.
Yeah, at least 4, yeah.
At minimum 4, likely 5, right?
And text line is like Ant's value, or he's so prolific that the Blazers need to include 2 second-round picks. I'm just going to say this, and this doesn't pertain to the Blazers; it pertains to the NBA at large. Second-round picks mean crap.
Well, it is. Salaries have to match. Drew makes more than Ant. Those 2 second-round picks have a value attached to them. That makes the trade work.
Well, not even just that, but
Because you can't do the cash anymore.
Well, no, they not even that. They include the capital because they included the capital. But here's the thing, and this is something I've heard from front offices around the NBA. Because of NIL, yes, guys are staying in school longer and opting to go back, but the guys that are the first like 10, 15 picks in the second round, they're usually guys that, you could talk yourself into being first rounders, but like for one reason or another, like probably should go back to school because you could develop a little bit more. But hey, it's a payday. You're going to the NBA. Now, the second round, after 4 or 5 guys, it's guys that were in the 50s and 60s and 70s on top 100 boards. It's no, like the guys that you took flyers on, like, hey, this could be a dude. Those guys aren't like, don't get me wrong. There's going to be a guy or two that ends up popping in there because there's the
and they're going to be the college seniors that have been around the block and they just are veterans. Whereas most of these guys are going to get drafted in the first round, like it historically speaking, are all 19 to 21
but they're
years
all
old.
going back to college because they're getting $1.5 to $3 million to go back. And so the value of second round picks, just talking to front offices around the league, after like pick 35, 36, teams are just throwing their hands up like, it's not a great crop of like, hey, here's a great project. Like
Anybody is caught up with second round picks in the NBA. I mean, just go and look at second rounds historically. There's 1 or 2 guys.
Yeah. And look, the whole, and this isn't like excuse the Blazers gave 2 second round picks. For like 2 years, the second round picks had more value under the new CBA before the NIL really took hold, and that period's gone.
Well,
like that's.
Guys, what are we overthinking this year? Drew Holiday's a better player even in his 30s than Anthony Simons.
What's going to be really interesting is the Ringer had Drew Holiday, I think, at number 69, nice, and Ant Simons at 87, their top 100 list. I'm wondering how much the prestige zone of being a Boston Celtic, if Ant ends up staying there, how far one Drew falls and how high Ant goes up.
Yeah, well, and they'll say it's because of his age and not because he's in Portland. But Drew Holiday got respect in New Orleans and in Milwaukee as well. I mean, he did. Now, he's in the back 40 of his career.
Absolutely.
It's the tail end. But the Blazers made this deal. I don't think that this indicates that they're done by any stretch because
I'd be pretty surprised if they were done.
They create holes.
Yeah.
You know, like you have created now a vacuum of lack of scoring punch, but you do create defensive mentality.
Yeah.
Leadership role is solidified right there, and nobody questions that. Now, Drew Holiday could be a Blazer this season. He could not be a Blazer by the end of the day.
Well, I'll tell you this. I was told specifically that the Blazers are 100% keeping Drew.
100% keeping Drew
right
Holiday.
Now, they are keeping Drew Holiday. That is not a. I tweeted out something along the lines of like right after the trade. The one thing I'm looking at here is this a situation where like Fred VanVleet and Dillon Brooks in Houston, where they made moves and gave guys shorter term, bigger deals that, yeah, they're good players and their character and their additions of like, this is with Fred, championship equity, and Dillon Brooks, like defensive identity fits into kind of what Ime Udoka wants to do. The deals themselves, though, also kind of work because Fred's deal was a short 2-year deal, of which he just signed a new deal. We can talk about a little bit later. But Brooks, he got the elevated money, but Houston wasn't in that competitive window yet. And then he ended up having the salary necessary in order to facilitate a trade for Kevin Durant.
Yeah, well, I'm going to go ahead and say this, too. They wanted Drew Holiday the first time, and then the Celtics said, well, how does Robert Williams, Malcolm Brogdon, some first-round picks sound?
Yeah.
And they were like, done.
Yeah.
Take him.
Yeah. And that was the thing is like,
So another offer could come through of a team saying he could be our piece.
Look, if that happens, sure. But as it stands right now, the Blazers, I would say, very, very, very much want to have Drew Holiday.
All right. Well, the NBA draft is tonight. The Blazers do pick 11th. Let's start diving into the NBA draft and get some of your feedback on the fan text line 503-864-6326. Danny and Dusty on the Fan. 503-864-6326. That is the fan text line. Also, the YouTube chat is popping off. All the party people are just arguing and getting their thoughts off in the chat, which I love to see. Keep it cordial, though, huh? Let's keep it cordial in the YouTube chat, folks. But we got a lot of texts coming in on the Anthony Simons and Drew Holiday trade. This text says, are we sure Drew isn't actually still close to as good of a scorer as Ant? On the Celtics, he had scoring stars all around him and didn't have to or get to shoot all that much. Simons on the Blazers, complete opposite. I guess we'll find out, but either way, Drew is one of my favorite NBA players due to his personality and style of play.
Drew's not taking on that offensive burden anymore. If you take a look at his career, his usage rate over the last 3 years has gone from 28% to 17% to 16%. And you can say, well, it's the Celtics and this, that, and the other. It's like he's also 35 years old.
Yeah, he's 35, but he's also playing with Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, and then before that, Giannis Antetokounmpo.
But also, again, keep in mind what I said. The offense is very much looking to be Denny-centric, which would be very reminiscent of Boston having a wing run downhill offense where Drew works as a secondary or tertiary guy as opposed to a primary creator.
All right. What doesn't make sense, this text says, is that Portland bailed out the Celtics to help their cap and got no draft picks from them and actually sent them picks. Make that make sense.
Yeah, I mean,
it's 2 second-round picks. Blazers, one, they don't have the roster spots to use these second-round picks either.
No, and they sent out their own second-round pick in 2031 and a 2026 Knicks second-round pick. That part of it, whether it's the Blazers or anybody else, I look at second round picks now. I'm just like, I don't care.
I never have.
Like, there was a period where I was like, there is more value in second round picks.
Well, it is currency.
Yes, and it's like now
like
that
this.
Because the like if you hit like let's say you hit a second round pick, it is found money. There's no doubt about it. But the thinning of the draft pool after the first 4, 5, 6 picks in the second round and kind of the projections of that going forward, it kind of devalues the currency, as it were, as it pertains to second round picks. That's my general mindset of the NBA at large.
Here's a question: is Drew Holiday the new Steve Blake?
I guess in like the supersized version, because Steve was Brandon Roy's guy, and there was that back and forth how he didn't really fit with Andre Miller, but. Honestly, it's kind of funny. Drew's kind of a combo of Blake and Andre. Like, that's kind of the prototype that he is, a big, strong, physical.
Oh, you're talking about the way he plays? No, I'm talking about just being on the Blazers multiple times. I think it's Dan Dickow. Because Dan Dickow played a total of 70 games. Steve Blake played a lot of basketball for the Blazers.
But
Drew Holiday has been on the Blazers twice and has not played a game for
impressive.
the team.
Well, it's like, didn't Westbrook get traded to the Jazz twice?
Oh, did he?
Yeah, I think
Westbrook
good for
him.
Cycled through the Jazz twice and let go. I think Blake ended up being here technically 3 times.
Yeah,
I think it's 3.
All right.
So
all right.
But I know, but stylistically, he does kind of remind me of like a combo Andre Miller, Steve Blake.
Sure.
A guy who can toggle on and off, and he can get you into stuff certainly.
Mm-hmm.
But he's more of a tertiary guy. It's just going to give you supreme organizational standards.
All right. Well, Anthony Simons is a Boston Celtic. Drew Holiday is a Portland Trailblazer. Welcome to Portland again, Drew. The Portland Trailblazers do select 11th in tonight's NBA draft. Who will it be, or will it be anybody? Danny and Dusty on the Fan.
Hello, friends.
George McCoy at Warren Allen Sports Desk. A Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
Jeff Rust with your Sports Center update. First on The Fan, NBA Draft Day is finally here. The Trailblazers hold the number 11 pick. Basically a foregone conclusion. The Mavericks will take Cooper Flagg with the number 1 overall pick. Coverage on 910 ESPN Portland starts at 4:30. Picks begin just after 5 o'clock on ESPN, ABC, and NBA TV. ESPN Shams Charania reporting the Rockets declining the $44.9 million option on guard Fred VanVleet, but they intend on signing him to a 2-year, $50 million extension to stay in Houston with a player option for the 2026-27 season. The Mariners have won 4 of their last 5. They are in Minneapolis to face the Twins again this afternoon. George Kirby starting for Seattle. Joe Ryan for Minnesota. 4:40 first pitch on Root Sports. Mariners remain second in the AL West, 4.5 games back of the Astros. And Jordan Schultz reporting the Seahawks signing former Pro Bowl cornerback Shaq Griffin to a 1-year deal. Base salary of $3 million with a chance to earn another $1 million. Griffin was in Seattle for the first 4 years of his career before splitting time with the Jaguars, Texans, Panthers, and Vikings the last 4 seasons. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. I'm Jeff Rust from the George McCoy at Warren Allen Sports Desk. Hurt and missing work? Insurance companies acting like jerks? Don't call your mom. Call George McCoy at warrenallen.com.
Jump back to earlier parts of your favorite fan shows on the Odyssey app. The only way to rewind Portland's sports leader, 1080 The Fan.
Portland, if you've ever wondered where to get your Blazers, Ducks, and Beavs, it's right here on the airwaves of 1080. 1080 The Fan with Danny and Dusty. It's Danny and Dusty and Rust from noon till 3.
Hour number 2, Danny and Dusty with you on this Wednesday afternoon. Thanks for being a part of our day, letting us be part of yours. 1080 AM, 99.5 HD2, the Odyssey app, twitch.tv/1080 AM The Fan, and the YouTube stream, youtube.com/1080 AM The Fan. Party on, party people on the YouTube stream. Let's get it. It is draft day in the NBA. Proclamation. That Cooper Flagg is going to go number 1. I feel it.
Yeah, it feels like that's a pretty
Bold.
safe bet.
Hot take.
Yeah, he jumped
Hot
up.
take.
He jumped up into the stratosphere as it pertains to betting odds. He joined Victor Wembanyama as one of the players recently to have negative 100,000 odds on him going number 1 overall.
What an opportunity.
So you can make some money there. All
Yeah.
you have to have is $100,000
Yeah.
to win 100.
Or if you're in the smaller denominations, $1,000 to win 1.
Yikes, dog.
Yeah.
Hey, Dan Lanning dropped there. The Ducks have just gotten a commitment from 4-star quarterback Bryson Beaver. So a beaver is a duck. His nickname's got to be the platypus, right?
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Call him Platty.
Yeah. All right. Let's get to this draft. Blazers select 11th overall.
Mm-hmm.
What the hell are they going to do?
So Intel, you're just see if you're watching on YouTube, you're going to see me checking my phone a lot today because it's, to be blunt, is the most active I've ever heard the NBA.
Oh,
Ever. In 15 years of doing this, I've never heard of, not even just around the draft, but just general noise, discussion, transactions, trade possibilities. There is some stuff that I've heard that is absolutely wild. And because of what I've seen transpire over the last week and discussions that I've heard, I'm like, well, as nuts as that sounds, okay.
Well, there was this thinking, and you and I have gone back and forth on this a few times, that because of the new salary cap and the first apron and the second apron, draft picks and young talent are extremely valuable.
Yes, and nailing them is even more important now.
So there was this line of thinking that you don't trade your picks because you need young talent. But when you look at the way that the league has kind of shaped out, and you have these teams that they have loaded contracts and they're in the first apron and second apron, and then you have teams that aren't even close to it but need talented players that are veterans, that does lead to a lot more action with first-round draft picks.
And you also have 13 teams in the East now who are like, why not us? Because Indiana's without Hallie, Milwaukee's without Dame, Boston is without Tatum, and now without Drew and Kristaps. Atlanta makes some moves for Kristaps because look at Atlanta's roster. What the potential starting lineup could be. Trae Young, Dyson Daniels, Zachary Rizese, Jalen Johnson, Kristaps Porzingis.
It's pretty good.
That's a really good, really long, really athletic lineup. Trae's tiny, so let's put a 6'7", maybe one of the best defensive players in the entire NBA, two guard alongside him.
Yeah.
Zachary Rizese, the number 1 overall pick last year, who really started to kind of put some things together. Jalen Johnson would have been an all-star had he not hurt his shoulder before the all-star break.
See, and there's my question about them. Who can you trust in there?
Well, I mean, I think Jalen's going to be an absolute stud in the league.
Okay, but he's already gotten hurt.
Yes.
Trae Young, not
tiny,
trustworthy.
Kristaps' body is...
Kristaps Porzingis always hurt.
Yeah.
Dyson Daniels, incredible defender.
But offensively limited.
Very limited. And then Rizese, he flashed some stuff. And he was a high pick. I mean, he could pan out, but you don't trust it yet.
But look at
you sit there and you say,
why not?
Together, why not?
Let's say Jalen continues to develop, stays healthy. It was a one little blip. Let's say you get 65 games out of Kristaps, and you also have I mean, he may be coming off the bench for them because Onyeka Okongwu might end up being their starter.
And then is Clint Capella still on that team?
He will not be there going forward.
All right.
I'll just say that.
And so their bench is Karis LeVert,
who I've heard that they're interested in re-signing. But the Hawks were a team that at pick 13 were, before moving up or trading for Kristaps, were trying to package some stuff together to move up high enough to draft Colin Malawach. I think getting Kristaps probably takes them out of that they said, hey, maybe it's too rich to get up there. But I'll tell you, from picks 3 through 10, every single team I have heard a trade discussion, trade up, trade back. I shouldn't say. Well, actually, there was a trade up discussion for the Sixers. But 3 through 10, trade up, trade back, trade out. I've heard discussions for literally every single team in that group.
We did this exercise 2 weeks ago about, we had 5 mock drafts and 5 different players going to Portland.
It's down to 2.
It is down to 2. It seems like it's Kasparas Yakachonis and Carter Bryant. Those 2 guys. With all of this buzz about moves being made, you could see teams that also like those 2 guys jump Portland. If one of those 2 aren't there, what does Portland do?
And that's the thing is, I think they do have some other guys there. There has been a mild shift. I shouldn't say mild shift there because he's been mocked there before. One mock draft, ESPN does have Noah Senge now going to Portland as of this morning. That could be a intel change. Look, we've talked before about Mike Schmitz's previous history at Draft Express and at ESPN. He had obviously worked for Jonathan Givony for years at Draft Express. Givony and Wu, the 2 guys who do the mocks for ESPN, they are nails at picks. But I think this is going to be a year where even their best intel is going to get disrupted because you're going to have teams that are moving back. There are the teams that are moving up. And when that happens, all of a sudden the order just gets rearranged. And this isn't to say that they don't know what they're talking about. I just think that it's going to be... There's going to be some stuff that pops up. There's stuff around Ace Bailey. There is stuff around every team from 3 through 10 about trading up, back, out, around. There are teams that are trading for players and getting out of picks. The Oklahoma City Thunder have picks that they can't roster currently right now. The Brooklyn Nets, as a part of that Porzingis trade, got a 5th first-round pick in this draft. If you don't think the Nets aren't loading up to make a move for something, you're crazy. So, yeah, there's going to be some stuff that's happening. And while we do have more clarity, I think, on probably the top 8 players as far as a mild consensus, who they go to and where they go is going to be really interesting. There are 3 players currently right now in Derek Queen, Trey Johnson, and Jeremiah Fears, where if they do not go 5, 6, 7, you could see all 3 fall quite a bit because of I think you could probably toss Colin Murray Boyles in there because he has teams that love him, but his fit questions is something that is around the NBA right now. And it's going to be very interesting to see kind of how those things slot themselves out. And then you have teams like the Spurs and the Thunder who have these just bevy of assets and riches and the ability to go do things. It is a widely known, quote-unquote, secret that the Oklahoma City Thunder are looking for a big in the draft because Isaiah Hartenstein is the first player they're going to let go of going forward because he's a luxury ad. because of his contract. Remember, he could stay with the Knicks, but the Knicks couldn't pay him to keep him, which is why he took the bigger short-term deal in OKC. Well, over the next 2 years, his money is going to become pretty prohibitive. And if they don't have, like, if you look at their roster right now, while they have the Cason Wallaces and the Kenriches and the Isaiah Joes and the Wigginses and all the hell, Nikola Topic, what do they not have on the rest of the roster? They don't have any bigs. And they've got to find a way to supplement that one way or the other. So they consolidate some of their draft capital to try to, let's say it's Portland. Let's say that
they have 14 and 24 now.
Let's say that at 11, and they're worried about 12 and 13. Now, I would have wondered about them doing this more intently before Atlanta makes the move for Kristaps, because they are also looking for a big. But let's say that they want to make sure that Chicago doesn't take the big that they want, because Chicago is in the market for at least a big, right? And they want to get in front of Chicago. Is Portland comfortable going that Oklahoma City is 100% going to take a big, and if Kasparis is on the board, Chicago is 100% going to take Kasparis? For those that don't know, Arturas Karstanovas is their general manager, Lithuanian. Kasparis, Lithuanian. There's plenty of ties there. Although we saw this backfire with Vlade and Luka, so we'll see how that goes. But Blazers move from 11 back to 14 and 24. Maybe they do take one guy and they trade the later pick with some other draft capital or another young asset and do exactly what they did last year with Denny Avdia and go get a player in Donovan and then trade for Denny.
In that scenario too, would it be crazy if Oklahoma City is trying to make that move to get Chicago on the horn and be like, hey, we'll flip 11 and 12. Unlock our picks moving forward.
Oh, for Portland?
For Portland.
Yeah.
Because of the Chicago Bulls, because of Neil O'Shea, still cannot trade a first-round pick until 2028 or a draft day trade because of the pick swap that they have protections with Chicago.
In the very unlikely event that both Kasparis and Carter are on the board at 11, do you do that? Because I think
I would.
Oh, no, I'm saying if you're Chicago, you're sitting there and the intel's telling you that the Blazers really like Carter. Let them take Carter. Well, Kasparis will fall to us. Can the Blazers look at him and go, look, we really like KJ, and we are prepared to take him. If you want him, unlock the protections, and you can have him.
Yep,
you can have him.
That is a good bargaining chip moving forward.
It's not a bad position to be, and you wipe your hands of it, and you're done with that, and you unlock your draft capital going forward.
No doubt about it. All right, 503-864-6326. Some other draft rumblings. Where do you want to see the Portland Trail Blazers go? Danny Dusty on the Fan. Danny, who the hell do you want the Blazers to draft? They have the 11th pick. Who do you want them to draft?
I'm torn between two guys with where they're going to be at.
Nope, I want one. I don't want this two. I want one.
I like Yakashionis the most, but I don't like the fit with having that many guards. And I think if you're looking at what they're trying to do, I would probably go with Bryant. I have questions about. I love Yegor's passing. I truly do. I wonder about his ability to get all the way to the rim, which I know some people have an issue with Kasparis too. But Kasparis' finishing ability, his skill of generating free throws, like he's one of the best in college basketball. Like things that translate. Like high IQ, high feel players, I really like. Yegor, after listening to him on Kyle Mann's pod on The Ringer, I was like, oh, this kid's that's the thing about Yegor. I'm like, this kid's aware. And the longer I do this stuff and the more I get into the evaluation process, just listening to how guys tick matters to me a lot more than it did 10 years ago. And like how they process, how they think about things, how aware they are, the self-awareness of like where their faults are and how they can improve them and where they can realistically get to. I think Yegor is light years ahead of a lot of guys in this draft. I do feel like he's a little rich at 11, but I know there are teams in the top 10 that do like him. It's going to be interesting to kind of see where he's one of those guys. I'm like, I'm not a Colin Murray Boyles guy. I just think the fit is going to be so problematic, not just for the Blazers, but for basically anyone. You need to have real die-in-the-wool, holy crap shooting around him. I do think he's going to be a good player, but I think the offense is a real question mark. I think defensively he's going to be a dynamite defender, particularly like just a team defender. The other guys that are around that range, like Noah Senge, I saw him play when the Blazers brought Ratio Farm Ullman with Ben Saroff. And I came out of that game more impressed with I came away more impressed with Saroff in that game than I did Senge. Senge's longer and maybe the potential scale is higher, but the thing about him is like he somehow produces, and that production matters. But you're like, okay, how does he get on the floor? Like, is he a good enough defender? Is he a good enough rebounder? Does his offensive ability as a play finisher, rim runner type, does it enough, or is he more of a project? And if you're the Blazers, are you looking at a project at that spot? And I think Yegor is mildly a project in the sense of like, can he develop as a shooter? You know, the combine numbers were crazy and all those kind of things, or I should say his workout at the combine was crazy. But I do believe that Yegor will be able to shoot it, but is he going to be impactful enough on the offensive end? But he's also a 6'9" ball handler, which is like, yeah, that's pretty enticing. I get it. And then there's a bunch of Blazers fans who are like, well, what about Cedric Coward? What about Cedric Coward? And like, I like Cedric Coward. But I think the noise got a little louder than kind of what the output and projection was. Like, he is an older player in this draft. He's 22 years old. Like, it doesn't mean he's going to stop getting better or that this is his ceiling. I mean, we saw this with Toumani Camara. Like, yeah, you can continue to get better as you get older, and you're not a finished product coming out of college. But I do wonder if people are kind of buying into the Coward stuff a little too heavy. Again, I like him, but I don't know if I like him enough to take him in 11. If I had to put a bet down, I think Coward goes 15 or later. But I do think he's going to go in the mid to early late first range. There's a handful of players you can talk me into, but the two guys for me, it's a coin toss between Kasparis and Carter. And looking at this roster and how it's shaking up, I think Bryant's the guy that I would ultimately go with if both those guys are available at 11.
No matter what, I think there's question marks and legitimate ones about these guys, right? Like, you know, Carter Bryant came off the bench of college, right?
Yeah.
And if you're expecting him to play in the NBA and he's coming off the bench in college, like, well, that's a concern. Yakashionis, as you have outlined several times, like, yeah, he has a great ability to distribute, facilitate, get to the free throw line too.
And I have some bias with Kasparis. I spent all week with him at Hoop Summit.
Yeah.
Got to talk to him. That's the thing is, when you spend that much time with a guy and you get to talk with them, see how they tick, and just kind of watch how they go through, like watching how players go through practice, how they prepare each day, that can reinforce or break some stuff. Like, that's the reason why I was never a guy who, even go back last year and listen out of Hoop Summit, I was not a guy who was everybody sitting there screaming about Ace Bailey being a potential number 1 overall pick. I went, nope, not my Huckleberry.
Yeah.
Cooper Flagg, 100% that guy. But again, I haven't, I've seen Carter play once live. That's it. So that was what I took away, and I do like him. But I don't want to sound hypocritical. This does not feel like Zach Collins at the wing. You know what I mean?
Is Carter Bryant a 3?
Yes.
You think because
Wholeheartedly,
he played 3 and 4 at Arizona, and people are like, well, he's kind of that tweener, and it's like, not in the NBA, not at 6'8".
Yeah, no, he can toggle between either. Like if you let's say Carter Bryant actualizes his potential. When I say that, that means getting to the 80th percentile, because nobody gets the 99th percentile. But let's say he realizes a 80th percentile or higher threshold, and he's a guy who can attack closeouts. He's a knockdown 3-point shooter and a plus defender multi-positionally. And if you've got 2 Bryant, Denny, they just kind of interchange. And 2, 3, 4, they're forwards and wings.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look at the Indiana Pacers, that's what they have.
Well,
it's just these interchangeable 2, 3, 4 guys that you just kind of you work with. And I think that's kind of you look at Houston. They've got Jabari, they've got Tari, they had Dylan. Like they just had all of these guys that all fit the same thing that you could kind of interchange around.
Well, I will say the 4 guys that you've given legitimate credence to in this conversation: Kasparas, Bryant, Demon, and Asenge.
Yeah.
Those 4 guys all fit the mold that Portland has built under Joe Cronin and Chauncey Billups.
Yeah. And think about those 4 guys.
Long.
The shortest guy in that group is 6'6" Jakas Jonas.
Yep. They are long.
Big, strong.
They are strong. And that's what Carter Bryant may not be. Like, he's not like, he's 6'10", right?
No, he's 6'6" and a half barefoot, so he plays at 6'8".
6'8" in shoes.
You see his frame and you're going, that's a guy who's going to play at 235, 240 pounds.
He's going to put some weight on. Yeah. That is going to be his future.
High-level athlete. Like you watch him and how he moves, particularly defensively. There's feel, there's IQ, he doesn't look lost when he's like. I keep pointing to this game because I think this is the one that locals will recognize. Arizona against Oregon, Carter Bryant had massive defensive plays, and whether it was blocks, being disruptive in the passing lanes, rotations, cutting off drives, like there's intrinsic feel, and I love this for the NBA at large. It looks like the league is, unless you have overwhelming talent, the league and the best teams are transitioning to toolsy players with feel. That's the thing that really, like, smart players. Like, again, that's how Indiana made their bones. That's how Houston has made their, everybody talks about Houston needing scoring, so they went out and got Kevin Durant, but the rest of their team, like Fred VanVleet, Dylan, like, I don't like Dylan Brooks, but he's a high feel, high IQ basketball player on the defensive end. Offensively, questions. But Jabari Smith Jr., Amen Thompson, Tari Eason, Alperen Şengün, like you just go up and down that roster. It's high feel, high IQ, high intensity players up and down the roster. And I think those are the kind of guys that Portland is very much prioritizing.
This is going to be a really interesting draft because this is also one that, you are mentioning, and all of the intel and all the reports seem to indicate the Blazers are down to 2, right? Kasparas, Jakas Jonas, Carter Bryant. This is a fall in love draft where all of these teams, it's going to come down to who falls in love with which player, which type of player that they are wanting, because there is variety in this draft. This is one of the weirder ones too. Not just the confluence of events of the CBA teams adjusting and adapting to it. But this weird pool of talent that is in the first round where if somebody covets something, they're going to make the move and they're not going to bat an eye at it because you're going to need to do it to get young talent on your roster.
And this is not a situation like last year's draft where the talent pool was lower. Yes, 1 and 2, they're locked in. And
they are different.
And they are. And Cooper's even more different than everybody else. But him and Dylan Harper are 1 and 2. And there are reports out there that Philly's going to make one more run at San Antonio to try to move up to 2 so they can take Dylan. I don't.
Why would San Antonio do that? San Antonio is just sitting there like, dude, we got lucky again, and we are going to have another young star on this team, yeah, okay, we'll trade. No.
And I don't know what Philly trades there that makes sense for them. And this, Philly did this once before when they went and got Markelle Fultz, and that backfired on them. But maybe they're trying to do the opposite and get the redemption of Markelle Fultz and go get Harper. But with all that being said, picks really 3 through 12, or excuse me, not 3 through 12, 4 through 12, you can make an argument for a lot of different guys. You really can, and it's not because that that there's this real big drop off. It's just, which guy do you really like?
Which flavor do you like?
The guys like Edgecombe and Knipple, yeah, they're gonna be at the top, and I would be surprised if both those guys don't go top 4 without a team moving back. And even then, the team that's moving up probably really wants one of those guys.
Yeah.
So
right. I'm excited for the draft tonight. It's gonna be fun.
It's gonna be fun. It's only a handful of hours away now. But
the public service announcement. We have a texter who got ball sacked.
Yeah, it happens.
Hey, this is ball sack season. This is today
season.
is the day that they thrive.
Notifications only. So for those that don't know, I have ball sack, Centel, all of those. I have them all blocked on social media, so that it can't even come across the timeline. I don't even have to give it a second.
Good, noted. Screenshot and text it today.
Yeah.
But that is also a public service announcement for all the people out there, and especially our update anchors that are doing SportsCenter updates today.
Notifications only.
Yeah. It's not a shot at you, Russ. That's to everybody.
Yeah,
Buck's got to be aware. Yeah. We have to be aware.
I don't think I've ever gotten ball sacked. Knock on wood.
Huh. Okay. That'll work. Yeah. All right, coming up next, it's time for our worst day on the web. You guys Final Destination movie fans?
No. I've seen 2 of them, and then I said, I can't do this anymore.
Well, what happens when Final Destination meets reality?
Nope.
Yep, because that's what we're getting up to next here on the worst day on the web. First, here's the Big Kahuna SportsCenter update.
That's that Hawaiian burger joint.
Now, from the George McCoy at Warren Allen Sports Desk, a SportsCenter update on 1080 The Fan.
First on the fan, the NBA draft finally upon us. The Trailblazers hold the number 11 pick. Basically a foregone conclusion. The Mavericks will take Cooper Flagg with the number 1 pick. Coverage on 910 ESPN Portland starts at 4 o'clock. Picks begin just after 5 on ESPN, ABC, and NBA TV. ESPN's Shams Charania reporting the Rockets declining the $44.9 million option on guard Fred VanVleet, but they intend to sign him to a 2-year, $50 million extension to stay in Houston with a player option for the 2026-27 season. The Mariners have won 4 of their last 5 games. They are in Minneapolis for another one with the Twins. George Kirby on the bump for Seattle. Joe Ryan for Minnesota. 4:40 first pitch on Root Sports. Over in college football, Oregon getting a commitment from 2026 4-star quarterback Bryson Beaver. The 6'3", 200-pound quarterback from Murrieta, California, was being heavily pursued by Ole Miss and LSU. And Jordan Schultz reports the Seahawks signing former Pro Bowl cornerback Shaq Griffin to a 1-year deal. Griffin was in Seattle for the first 4 years of his career before splitting time with the Jaguars, Texans, Panthers, and Vikings the last 4 seasons. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. I'm Jeff Russ from the George McCoy at Warren Allen Sports Desk. Hurt and missing work, insurance companies acting like jerks. Don't call your mom. Call George McCoy at warrenallen.com.
The Fan Merch Locker has a new black 1080 The Fan hoodie, as well as classic long and short sleeve tees. Get yours now at 1080thefan.com. It's time for today's worst day on the web. With Danny and Dusty on Odyssey and 1080 The Fan.
Well, that sucks.
I do like me some Final Destination movies.
Oh, God. Here's the thing with those movies, though. Here's the thing.
It pulls you in, but boy, does it make you hate a lot of things.
Well,
like logging trucks.
No, I already had that fear, and
Yeah,
it just
but-
amplified it.
Yeah.
No, here's the thing that gets me with those, is that you get this anxiety watching those movies because of the fact that you know what's going to happen. It's like, don't.
How creative is it going to get?
What are you doing? No, it's not that. It's frustrating just to be like, I know this person's dying.
Yeah.
You're going to die.
See, the thing is, that franchise of movies also has greatly influenced my role as a helicopter parent.
Ah.
You know what I mean? It's like I see visions in my head. When the kids are climbing on the the big rig at the park.
I'll tell you what, the newest one, that commercial where it starts with like a backyard barbecue, it
And the
looked like
lawnmower.
the trailer looked like it was like a beer commercial.
Yes.
Boy, that one snuck up on my family. And my 8-year-old's like, what? And it's like steps on glass lawnmower, just like, what?
Just
Yeah.
Bud Light's going crazy.
Thanks, Final Destination. My kid was up at 1 o'clock in the morning being like, what's that lawnmower doing?
Yeah, lawnmower, barbecue, sharp objects.
It looked like it was, hey,
Yeah.
we're having fun. Dead.
Well, at a Final Destination screening in Argentina,
Mm-hmm.
the ceiling of the theater fell in on the audience.
I mean, that's an immersive experience, I guess.
Right? That's not the
terrifying,
IMAX.
man.
That's not the shaking chairs. That's full on. Nobody was killed. There were a few
Thank
injuries.
goodness.
But there was another story that popped up yesterday that was like, wow, that's Final Destination if I've ever seen it. Headline reads, lifeguard impaled by beach umbrella at Asbury Park.
That, who?
That is a kind
How?
of trauma.
How was this? Was it like thrown like a javelin? Was it he was running and fell onto it?
It appears that a gust of wind knocked the victim off a lifeguard chair, causing her to fall on top of an umbrella pole.
Oh, no.
So not even like your weight. Remember we talked about this the other day, or I can't remember if you were in here for this one. The guy that got caught on the fence.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
At the Coliseum.
Yeah.
Yeah. Idiot.
Bla-
I'm gonna go up and climb this fence here.
literally fell like on the spike getting over
Yeah.
and was
Yeah.
blacked out because he had a fence through him.
Yeah, that's the point of the pokies on the top there.
Yeah, don't go over those.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, just
Pro tip.
yeah, the whole idea of like getting something like that to happen, like I would much rather break or tear something than have, even though the recovery is longer, just the idea, like the severe trauma stuff like this. Have you ever like
No,
gone
I
down
think
this?
the recovery for impaling yourself is probably as long as breaking a bone or tearing a muscle. It's literally going through you.
Depends on where. Like,
So
it
it's
goes,
going through the muscles. It's
Yeah.
going through the like that ain't.
yeah, especially something like that. That's a blunt object. Like that sounds terrible because that's the. Have you ever gone down that rabbit hole of like they used to have like the E-Bombs world, like when we used to do the slideshows online of like worst trauma injuries, and it's like X-rays of things that are stuck in people.
Yeah. Here's the thing. I have never been a fan of those.
Oh yeah,
Yeah. Like of course, I went to the rotten.com.
oh yeah.
But I didn't. I was never a fan of like seeing that stuff. It's like, hey, check out this dude's brain. It's like, no, gross.
In the least surprising
But why?
fashion, I was always interested.
Though, of course you were.
It was just like, and you're like, this person lived, or like, this person had something shoved through their
Yeah.
eye and didn't go blind.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I look, I know,
Mm-hmm.
I'm aware of said mentality leaning towards some
You know,
dexterous things.
you know
but
what's really weird though is
What?
that stuff gives me the
Oh, yeah.
the heebie-jeebies. But if like something like that happens
Mhm.
and I'm actually there, I don't have a problem
Mhm.
with like going and like helping
Yeah.
or being around it. It's like I don't freak out and I don't panic
Mhm.
about that kind of stuff. But if I see it like on a computer, like ES or ABC, I did not need to see Tyrese Halliburton's reverb of his entire leg.
We did not see it over
and over and over again.
Yeah.
I didn't need like that. I hated watching that. That was gross. But if like something like that were to happen in front of me and like somebody's all mangled, I'd be like, oh, I can help out, and that doesn't bother me.
Yeah, it's when it happens to me, unfortunately, it's happened to me.
Yeah.
It doesn't, I mean, don't get me wrong, the pain is unbearable. But it doesn't bother me mentally as much as if I see it happen to a family or a friend, it bothers me. If it's not somebody I know, it doesn't bother me at all.
That's right.
But if it's somebody I know, that's my weakness.
All right.
That's the flaw is like, if it happens to somebody I know, I'm not great with that because I like to be able to control things. If it's me, I can control me. But it's somebody I know and I know they're in pain and something's wrong. It's like, that's the thing. I'm like, that cripples me.
That was also a great time for the Dexter theme yet again, because he messes with the randos, not people that he knows.
Yeah.
All right.
Can't dip into the same ink too many times.
Yeah.
You know, it is what it is.
I mean, it's also like, you know, when your team franchise that you love impales themselves over and over again, it's hard to watch. And that, folks, is how I did tie this back to the Blazers. The fan text line said, I'm wondering how you're going to tie this back into the Blazers. Well, this is a franchise that's impaled themselves time and time again.
Can you think of like just a normal everyday thing that would be worse to be impaled by than an umbrella pole?
Ooh.
Because it's long, blunt. It's not like a very sharp thing that's just going to like ease its way in. Like that's...
So I
was really just waiting for you to say cleanly. It's long, it's blunt, it's thick.
Yeah. No, I
you
knew
didn't do that for me.
No, I
I
didn't
was.
you got to work for it.
I was like 13, and I was riding my bike home, and I was riding a wheelie. And
look at you.
both, dude, it was sick. Both like my parent, nobody was at home. It was just me, and I crashed. My handlebars went into my thigh.
Oh,
when I say they went like the end of it,
yeah,
like
the
little
end cap
rubber
got pushed
cap,
away.
It was not on there.
Yep.
And metal handlebars, so it was like this circle, perfect circle. It was like a apple core.
Yes.
Right. Just right on my inner thigh, and it went like into my thigh, and I like got up and I was like, "This is not good." I had to like pull the handlebars. That sucked.
Yep.
And then I just like went home. I walked home, and I was like, "What do I do now?" And so I called my parents, and they were like, "I'm sure it's not that bad." You walked home, and I was like, "It's kind of bad."
We get stitches out of this?
No. I went. Thankfully, we had like a doctor who lived down the street, and I hobbled my way over there, and he looked at me. He's like, "Dude, you need a bandage on that, like now." Yeah, that wasn't fun. That sucked.
It's
because that was not sharp. It just like impact force just pop.
It's funny you bring that up. I had the same thing happen to a buddy of mine when we were kids.
Enjoy your lunch, guys.
It went through his side though.
Yeah. No.
And paramedics showed up because you're dealing with organs and that like you don't want to just pull that out.
Nope.
We had another one where a buddy of mine were riding through big puddles. And he slowed down because the water was like 7-8 inches deep. It was pretty deep for a puddle. But he went over the handlebars and landed. Well, little did we know that in that puddle there was a giant shard of glass, and it literally went through the entirety of his hand.
Oh, that's gross,
and I was
dude.
like, he just popped up and went, "Oh!" And I was like, "Oh God!" We took his shirt off and wrapped it around, but kept it there, and then rode our bikes home before taking him to the hospital.
See, times are different.
Yeah,
times are different. All right,
you reacted like you had
gross.
one there.
Nope.
No. Okay. All right. Coming up next, we are going to keep it in the NBA and the world of the NBA at large. As well, at least one owner is getting up there and crying wolf about the CBA, of which he was one of the owners that signed off on the new CBA.
Oh, no way.
The wild, wild world of NBA owners complaining about salary caps only to find out, oh no, the salary cap we created might actually be a problem for us because we didn't think about the underlying repercussions of it all.
And it involves Portland, too.
To an
Not
extent.
now.
But maybe soon. We'll get to that next year on Danny and Dusty, 1080 The Fan. The Denver Nuggets season ended a little earlier than I think the Nuggets thought it may have going into the season before firing general manager Calvin Booth and head coach Michael Malone. David Adelman did win them a playoff series and did push the Oklahoma City Thunder to 7 games.
7 games, one game won as well.
But
They lost by 29.
Yeah, there you go. Governor Josh Kroenke got up and did his end of the season media availability stuff. And he had a little something to say about where the current CBA climate will put them into it.
And, you know, I think that for us as an organization, going into that second apron is not necessarily something that we're scared of. I think that there are rules around it that we needed to be very careful of with our injury history. The wrong person gets injured, and very quickly you're into a scenario where that I never want to have to contemplate, and that's trading number 15. And so, we're very conscious of that pushing forward, and, providing the resources that we can when the moment arrives. But that second apron, is it a hard cap? I'm not 100% sure, but it's something that teams are obviously very aware of going forward.
Cheap.
Well, But, okay. He is saying, though, like, if somebody significant gets hurt, I don't know, like Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr.,
Sure.
who are always hurt for the Denver Nuggets, he'll have to then trade Nikola Jokic?
Yeah, which is an absolutely insane thing to say. There,
That's mismanaged.
there's an axiom out there. As an NBA owner, there's three things you can do. You can pay for a winner and be competitive. You can make money, and you can keep your roster together. You can choose two of those three things.
Yeah. No, yeah. This new CBA Paul Allen actually would have loved it.
Mhm.
Where he would have been like, done the Boston Celtics, F it. We're going to do this.
If the team is competitive enough,
if we are in, we are all in. Now, that's what Boston did here. And, like,
Denver was not willing to do that.
Kroenke is taking what happened in Boston, like Jason Tatum ruptures his Achilles, and now they're like, we've got a tough decision. They are not going to be a title contender without Jason Tatum. Whether you think Jason Tatum is worthy of the star power that he is given and kind of heaped upon him or not, the reality of it is they aren't. So they have to make some very tough decisions on their roster. They were going to have to do that anyways because the team sold, for God's sakes. But either you are going to pay for that 1 year where you are not competitive, but you know that player who is injured in this case is going to be coming back, and you're okay with that, or you go, as you call them, cheap, and say, if we're not going to be competitive this year, we're not going to even pay for it, and we are just going to
divest entirely out of it.
And start a full-on retool at that point.
If you're trading Nikola Jokic in his prime years, you're insane.
Yes. And the reality of it is I don't think he even believes what he's saying because this is what they would do. Jamal Murray is done for the year, whatever. They shut down Nikola Jokic, and they say, you're not playing. They'll get a higher draft
as long
pick.
as you have your draft capital, and this is what you saw the Indiana Pacers do. I talked about it just a little bit before, when it happened. Pacers trade their draft pick this year to the New Orleans Pelicans and get their 2026 unprotected back to them. They did that before Hallie ruptured his Achilles. They did it about a week before, or 4 days before. And they did that to protect themselves in this exact instance. They had a feeling of, this isn't good. Let's make sure we're protecting ourselves, because they just saw Dame and they just saw Tatum go down.
Yep.
And they went, hey, this is Chad Buchanan and Kevin Pritchard having the foresight and the willingness to say, hey, as much as we'd like to have a draft pick right now in this draft, we need to protect our franchise going forward because of how Herb Simon runs the Pacers. They are not a luxury tax team. They're not an apron team. They're not a team that goes down that path. And in doing that, they insulated themselves. And next year, now the Pacers have never been a team that is outright tanked. They've never had the number one overall pick. No. It's not what they do. But without Hallie, could that change? Could this be could
I don't think they're going to bottom out that
not hard
far.
because they still have a requisite level of talent. But could Kevin Pritchard talk Herb Simon into going, look, I know you always want to be relevant and you want to matter and you want to have civic pride and do all those things. Are you okay with like this being a gap year? And let's say
not a playoff team, and you sell it to him saying, hey, maybe we get that Dallas Maverick.
Yeah, you get that luck in a draft next year, whether it's Darren Peterson or AJ DeBonta or Cam Boozer. Let's say, because those are the likely the top three picks right now. Let's say you get lucky, and you get AJ DeBonta. You get Darren Peterson probably wouldn't make as much sense for them on the guard side, but let's say it's AJ DeBonta, and now you add a 6'8" wing who is just a scoring dynamo to play, like a guy who, like Pascal, is a play finisher, but also a creator, where like, no, you got to worry about Hallie, but now you got to worry about this absolute monster who can get buckets on every level as a physical mismatch. Like, we haven't seen guys, like he's the closest thing to like a McGrady-esque kind of guy we've seen in a long time, and he's already bigger.
Yeah, and I mean, like that right there is exactly why, like, I was on board with it, pulling the plug on this Blazer season at the end of it, right? Like, and just saying, give yourself the best chance. And see,
It's not a guarantee of anything. I mean,
It
look
isn't.
At the Mavs.
No,
They
I mean,
they
it's
didn't
not.
intentionally tank. They made a drastic change to their roster, and they traded for traded for a guy in Anthony Davis, and they had another guy in their roster in Kyrie Irving who have had injuries, and boy, did that blow up in their face.
Yeah, it absolutely did. They won the lottery.
Congratulations, boy. Ugh. Maybe we'll talk
And
about
then
the Mavs.
sign Kyrie to an extension.
That was something that was lurking under the surface, that he was going to opt out of his last year and get a 3-year deal. And talking to folks in Dallas, I've mentioned this already. The Mavs didn't bring anybody else in but Cooper Flag, because they have to rebuild all of the loyalty. And this is perfect. So we have a minute here. The Mavericks released a draft day hype video.
That's so bad.
And it's voiced by Troy Aikman, Dallas Cowboys legend. You know who's not voicing it? Dirk
Nowitzki,
because
Dallas Mavericks legend.
Because he's been alienated by the franchise.
Yeah.
And the Mavs have miles and miles and miles of work to do to repair loyalty. And so the thing they said, Cooper, you're our guy. We're not even shopping this. We're not bringing anybody else in. They're doing the necessary things for them to show that and to rebuild that brand and that equity and everything that goes along with that. But that
Nico's gonna be like Ace Bailey.
Yeah, but I tell you what, that draft video it's funny. It's done by the Dallas Mavericks, and there's like backhanded shots at both Michael Finley and Nico Harrison in the video, and I'm just like, who approved this? This is the team putting this out.
Neither one of those guys.
I was just looking at it. It just made absolutely no sense.
Yeah.
But that's the Mavericks in a nutshell recently. All right, coming up next, I want to get into the NBA mock drafts, not just for the Portland Trailblazers, but where all of the, not all of, but the 5 that I use, where they have guys kind of slotted going through this. We'll kind of just go through the lottery. But also there's an analytics model that's out there that is grabbed, nothing to do with Intel. It is based on modeling done by guys like Kevin Pelton and the projections that the models have based on those players and their draft slotting. Because I think it's very interesting when you talk about modeling analytics versus Intel fit and everything else that kind of goes along with that, and where those two kind of things marry up or don't. We'll get to that next here in hour number 3 on Danny and Dusty, 1080 The Fan.
Now, from the George McCoy at Warren Allen Sports Desk, a Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
If you've been arrested for DUI, you need a team of attorneys into whom you can place your trust. Call Reynolds Defense Firm today online at reynoldsdefensefirm.com. First on The Fan, NBA Draft Day is finally upon us. The Trailblazers hold the number 11 pick. The Mavericks all but assured to take Cooper Flagg with the number 1 pick. Coverage on 910 ESPN Portland starts at 4:30. Picks begin just after 5 on ESPN, ABC, and NBA TV. ESPN's Shams Charania reporting the Rockets declining the $44.9 million option on guard Fred VanVleet, but they say the report says they also intend to sign him to a 2-year, $50 million extension to stay in Houston with a player option for the 2026-27 season. Mariners have won 4 of their last 5 games, game 3 of 4 with the Twins in Minneapolis this afternoon. George Kirby on the hill for Seattle opposite Joe Ryan from Minnesota. 4:40 first pitch on Root Sports. Oregon getting a commitment from 2026 4-star quarterback Bryson Beaver. The 6'3", 200-pound QB from Murrieta, California, was being heavily pursued by Ole Miss and LSU. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. I'm Jeff Rust from the George McCoy at Warren Allen Sports Desk. Hurt and missing work? Insurance companies acting like jerks? Don't call your mom. Call George McCoy at warrenallen.com.
The Hot Corner, now in its new time. Tuesdays at 7 after Isaac and Sue on Portland's Sports Leader, 1080 The Fan. This is Danny and Dusty.
It's not your problem, Doc. You don't have to mix up in this.
That is a hell of a thing for you to say to me.
With Danny Meringue and Dusty, the Fan Man Hera.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, skin it. Skin that smoke wagon and see what happens.
Danny and Dusty on the Odyssey app and 1080
I'm your Huckleberry.
The Fan.
Out number 3 here on Danny and Dusty on an NBA Draft Wednesday afternoon.
Show is.
It is 2 o'clock. The NBA Draft will get underway, well, kind of, in about 3 hours. It is going to, the intel will get very, very, very spicy very, very, very quickly.
Over under 6:07 p.m. The Blazers pick 11th.
5 minutes on the clock. Over.
Over?
Yeah.
I do appreciate the NBA that they don't do nearly as egregious of a job as the NFL, where it's like the NFL has 10 minutes and then it's 12 minutes before they actually announce the pick. Like if a team knows who they want, they'll get it done. Mm-hmm. I mean, as you go on, like Cooper Flagg, they'll put him on the clock. You will see pick is in. They'll wait and have a little bit of drama, but they don't drag it out nearly as long as the NFL.
No, the NFL wants to milk the living bejesus out of this, but the NBA also does the second round on a second day now. So,
yeah,
ugh. But
you can hear that over on 910 tomorrow.
There you go. Whether you're watching along on youtube.com/1080am the fan or twitch.tv/1080am the fan or on 1080. We appreciate you. We love you. Thank you for hanging out with us on this wonderful, wonderful Wednesday. It is indeed a wonderful Wednesday because, like I mentioned, it is NBA Draft Day. It is here, is the beginning of the 2025 season. Now, the league books officially switch over July 6th. 2025, but this is the first inaugural event, or not inaugural, the seasonal event that marks the beginning of the new league year.
Okay, question about that. Do you think, because we've seen a lot of trades going on, and it kind of started during the NBA Finals when a team in the Finals was trading a pick during the NBA Finals with Indiana. Are we going to start seeing a slow of transactions with veteran players until that July 6th? Because once the new league year starts on July 6th, we're going to start seeing the official transactions start to come through.
That's the thing. It's like, so the trade for Drew, the trade for Kevin Durant, I believe the trade for Kristaps, and I'm missing one other. Oh, CJ, and we didn't mention that. CJ McCollum getting traded for Jordan Poole and Sadiq Bey and some pick swaps.
CJ going to DC.
Yeah, the best line I heard on the golf course yesterday was now he can go from being a lobbyist in the NBA to a lobbyist in DC.
That was me that said that.
Oh, so you said that? I was
that was me who said that.
I was mildly intoxicated. Mildly. I can't remember everything from yesterday. I'm sorry. It was a great day, but I'm still. Somebody texted in that I'm mumbling. I'm tired. Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm absolutely cooked.
He he ingratiates himself to the city that he is in. He became a winehead
Here.
while he was here. In D.C., it's politics, and CJ likes mixing it up. I could see him becoming a lobbyist.
Being out on C-SPAN.
Mm-hmm.
Not hard to see.
CJ Span.
Yeah, ooh, I like that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure the branding team will get started on that alongside his Heritage Wine. But I wanted to get into the actual mock drafts themselves.
All right.
The mock drafts that I use
Ace Bailey #1.
Yeah, the mock drafts that I use that I rely on, obviously ESPN with Givney and Wu.
Mm-hmm.
No Ceilings, the guys over there, we've had them on the show. Corey, Tyler, Albert, all those guys. Steven, they do great work, and they do this year round. It's no joke to them. This is what they do. The Ringer with Danny Chow and J. Kyle Mann. Those are guys that also this is what they do. This is what they focus on. Jonathan Wasserman at Bleacher Report and NBA TV. He's been doing this for a very long time. And then The Athletic with Sam Vecini. Those are the guys that in the public space that I utilize because I know this is what they do. I think Sam's full draft guide this year ended up being like 100,000 plus words.
They do. The Athletic does a really good job with draft coverage. Like Dane Brugler has the Bible that he puts out before the NFL draft. And
Sam does the same thing for the NBA. And it's weeks of writing.
Yeah,
it's very deep. It's very thorough. That's like those guys. That's what they do.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's plenty of other guys, and I'm not saying that you can't go use somebody else's or that there aren't other scouts out there. But when I'm collecting data and I'm tracking stuff and movement for guys over a period of time, those are the guys that I trust because those are the guys that I know that are in it, that I have relationships with, and I can text and go back and forth with and kind of get some understandings of things. So those are the ones that I'm going to use here. On ESPN, we're just gonna do the lottery because we don't have that much time. Obviously, 1 and 2, Dallas with Cooper, San Antonio with Dylan Harper. I would be stunned if San Antonio moved out of 2. I would be stunned.
It would be stupid for them to do that, and San Antonio is not an organization that does stupid things.
No, unless that they have an ulterior motive to do something that makes sense, and you go, oh, so I trust them. I mean, they have the track record of doing that, whether it's moving George Hill for a player from San Diego State who's pretty good, but we're not sure about, in Kawhi Leonard.
Pretty good.
But, I mean, that's the thing. I think people tend to forget. George Hill was good for the Spurs. He was really good. So for them, we're going to move out because we really like this Kawhi guy, worked out pretty well for him. But at pick number 3, ESPN has the 76ers taking VJ Edgecombe. And if they stay at that spot, that's the guy that I expect them to take. I love VJ, again, a guy that I had at Hoop Summit. You want to talk about high character? That dude's high character. And if you didn't get a chance to watch him at Baylor, hopefully you got a chance to watch him in the qualifiers with the Bahamas, with DeAndre Ayton. I've talked to DA about VJ. Speaks very highly of VJ.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say, if you did not see him play for Baylor, you probably didn't watch him play for the Bahamas.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
Yeah,
those guys speak very highly of him, not only as a player, but as a high character guy. I love the kid.
He's 6'5" with a 6'8" wingspan. Is that right?
Yes.
Is that?
Barefoot 6'4", 6'7.5" wingspan.
Sheesh.
And probably the best athlete in the draft.
Yeah.
A crazy burst, vertical ability to get to any spot on the floor. At pick number 4, they have Con Knippel. I have been a Con guy for a while now. I was a little unsure going into the season. To Charlotte.
Poor Con.
Yeah. He only gets to stay in North Carolina. One of the Duke guys gets to. But I genuinely think that Con is going to be a very good player in the NBA. And the comp that I like best for him is Desmond Bane. Bigger Desmond Bane.
All right.
Physical guy that gets to his spots. Hey, look, it's not a white-on-white comparison.
You went racial unbiased there.
Cross-racial. I try to find those so we don't be like, oh, he's kind of like Kyle Korver with Wiggle. It's like, no, don't do that.
No.
Don't do that.
Kyle Korver with Wiggle is a different player.
It's a totally different player. Like, Kyle Korver had Wiggle. Boy, that guy would be a special offensive player. That was the thing, though. He was the movement shooter from hell. At pick number 5, this is where, man, I don't know. I have conflicting intel all over the place at pick number 5.
Utah, by the way.
Utah
Jazz.
So
the Utah Jazz.
Earlier in the process, Trey Johnson was very much seemingly the guy that they were going to go to. And then it became Jeremiah Fears. And ESPN has Jeremiah Fears. As of today, I have heard from multiple sources that the Jazz are considering Ace Bailey.
Oh, hey.
Which to me, my eyebrows went up because the intel I got previously was that not a landing spot for Ace. But one thing you have to consider, Danny Ainge brought in his son, Austin Ainge, to take charge. And I have had multiple people today tell me, Austin is in charge. That is a very real change within that organization because Danny's been there for a while now and he's had some changeover. And if the question I had was, if you're bringing your son in to kind of groom him to be your replacement, essentially, why are you going to step on his toes?
Yeah.
And it's going to be very interesting to see which way Utah goes here. Do they go with Fears? Do they go with Johnson? Or do they become a wild card here and go with Ace Bailey? Or do they trade out?
Jeremiah Fears, a guard out of Oklahoma.
Smaller guard, but very explosive. Showed out in the NCAA tournament. Like he's got some juice to him. But he is 6'2", and I think $175.
Yikes.
He's small.
Little guy.
He's a little guy. Little guy. But he is very young. He's very young.
I would, and the thing with Danny Ainge is that I feel like he will acquiesce to his son and say, hey, your pick, you do it. But what I also know about Danny Ainge is he will let the entire world know, no, this was Austin's pick. And he will be okay with that because Danny Ainge has always thrived on that of being like, I'll let you know when I did it, but I'll let you know when somebody else did it too.
Yeah.
All right.
At pick number 6, the Washington Wizards, according to ESPN, will take Ace Bailey. And this seems and this is where things kind of get weird because Washington as an organization has really tried to prioritize the guy, the dude. And I just want to point out something real quick. Look who's on Washington now. C.J. McCollum, Chris Middleton, Marcus Smart. Like, just look at how much. Remember, everybody made a big deal about a young rebuilding team adding a bunch of capable veterans that can still play. Oh, weird. Washington tried to not do that and went, we can't do this because this is not palpable.
Yep.
This is god-awful basketball. We have got to get some semblance of organization in here. Now, do they now believe that because they do have those veterans that they could take on someone like Ace Bailey who maybe lacks a little bit of maturity and go, here's the pros around you, figure it out, dude?
That locker room is going to be really interesting. Yeah. Personality-wise, they do have veterans. Marcus Smart
is the most outspoken of them.
And C.J. McCollum may butt heads in that locker room. Big time.
No way.
That may be the story to follow about that trade. The redeeming quality of Washington may be seeing how that plays out because you want to talk about oil and water.
Just two totally different personalities.
Boy.
I've definitely likened that over the last 24 hours to Robert Covington and CJ McCollum.
Yeah.
Which I'll leave it at that. So at pick number 7, New Orleans Pelicans take Common Malawach.
Interesting.
There are probably 5 or 6 teams that are interested in Common Malawach. It's the Pelicans, the Wizards. They could take Malawach at 6, and this could totally change everything up. The Raptors, the Thunder, the Hawks were rumored, but they went and got Porzingis. That probably takes them out of it, and the Nets. Those are all teams that are distinctly linked to Malawach.
Boy, that would be an interesting fit for him.
It allows him, if you look at the roster right now, it allows him to just be a anchor defensively and a rim runner. Like, they've got Zion, they've got Murray, they've got Murph, they've got Herb Jones. Like, they've got guys where he isn't going to be asked to do anything other than be big and rim run.
But that is such an interesting franchise because they do have an archetype of player that they want.
Previously under David Griffin, because remember Joe Dumars is now running things.
But
in
they like either they will go with the biggest human being possible, Valanciunas, or they like skinny rim runner, get from end to end.
Yeah, they took Yves Missy last year.
Yep.
Who's incredibly bouncy big man. But I think they probably look at him as more of a bench big as opposed to being a guy who could be your starting big. At pick number 8, this is one of the slides that I was talking about. Trey Johnson was consistently mocked to the Utah Jazz. I have heard that the Nets like Trey. I've also heard that they really like Igor.
What? I understand watching Trey Johnson, albeit limited this past year. He is. You would think he would be a top 5.
He can
prospect.
shoot the living hell out of the ball. Like, if you talk about how you get on the floor in the NBA, that's how he gets on the floor in the NBA immediately. But is he, number one, big enough to play the 2? Is his playmaking good enough to? I said this the other day. Right now, he is as big as Anthony Simons, a little bit smaller. He's 6'4", 190 pounds.
Okay.
Ant's 6'4", 195 to 198.
I always see him listed at 6'6". Not
he at the combine. He measured in 6'4", 3/4, at 190 pounds with a 6'10".
So
wingspan.
6'6" in shoes. Yeah, 6'6". So 6'4" 3/4.
Yeah.
And there's got to be something in the interview process where they're talking to him, and the commitment on the other end. It kind of sounds like he's like, I don't know, shooter. I just shoot. Yeah, like that's what I do.
And can he be a creator with the ball in his hands? And the Texas situation, I do want to give him credit here, was not good. He played with a point guard who there was not a great relationship there. I've joked about Trey Johnson leading in claps per 36 for calling for the ball. But he's also a guy that kind of earned that in that he can shoot. He's the best shooter in this draft.
Yeah.
Like that period, point blank, that man can shoot the cover off the ball.
They had one of those, they did the live look-see-doos, before the game when they were warming. They did his reel of his, like, just shooting pregame. And I remember just going, oh, my God, like, he's not touching the rim.
No, he was a guy who was here for Hoop Summit, and I came into that going, he can shoot the ball. He can, like, I don't know about anything else. Honestly, this is maybe a little too Portland-centric. Gary Trent Jr. was here during his Hoop Summit run before he went to Duke. I came out of that Hoop Summit and I go, I'm telling you right now, I don't know what Gary Trent Jr.'s career is going to be, but I can tell you right now he's going to be a 40% three-point shooter in the NBA.
Well, that's fair
and
enough.
it's like when you watch a guy shoot who's a dyed-in-the-wool, yeah, that's a shooter. It is what it is. Pick number 9, the Toronto Raptors taking Noah Senge. It's a spot he's mocked. I said earlier that he was mocked to Portland. He was mocked there last night or the night before when I was writing. So sorry about that. He is number 9 going to Toronto. And again, archetype, profile, Masai, that all adds up.
All this is leading to is that the 2 guys that we're through 9 picks here, 2 guys that the Blazers have coveted, still available to this point.
Pick number 10, again, according to ESPN, the Suns taking Carter Bryant.
There's one that is out. They like their guys from Arizona.
They do. And now Sarver is gone, but Tucson's just down the road. Right in your backyard, you're probably intimately familiar with Carter Bryant. Now, do they need wing reinforcements? Yes, but boy, do they need help in the front court at both the 4 and the 5. It's hard for me to not see them taking one of Colin Murray Boyles or insert big here. It wouldn't shock me if they reached for a big there. It just wouldn't. Just because
if Malawach doesn't go earlier, that would be a fit.
At number 11, Kasparas Shakashionis, the Portland Trailblazers.
I wouldn't hate it. Wouldn't hate it.
I will say, and since we're kind of up against it,
6'8".
I'm going to do the next couple picks here just real fast. If the Blazers take Kasparas Shakashionis, does that mean the clock is starting on Scoot Henderson?
Yes. I think it already has, hasn't it?
That's what I want to pivot to next because I think there's a lot to come out of that.
Yeah.
But at pick number 12, Colin Murray Boyles going to the Bulls. They do need front court reinforcement. That wouldn't surprise me a bit. Atlanta Hawks, Yegor Demon. If they got their big, I could see them going down this path and being like, hey, we like jumbo playmakers. They have Zariza Shea. They have Dyson Daniels. They have Jalen Johnson.
It's a long-ass team.
And if you've got 6-foot-tall Trae Young, having a bunch of dudes that are just massive everywhere else, super helpful. And at pick 14, last pick in the lottery here, the San Antonio Spurs taking Johan Berenger, the big from across the seas for Seta Vida Olympia. And he is the best shot blocker in this draft. I don't know about anything else, but if the Spurs like an international prospect, they've done pretty well with that. I will tell you, he's big as could be, and he's got real shot blocking instincts. Beyond that, we'll see kind of where it goes. So that's the lottery as according to ESPN. But the question I have coming out of this is, if the Blazers do, let's open it to 2 players. If the Blazers take Kasparas Shakashionis or Yegor Demon, does that start the clock on Scoot Henderson? We'll get to that next here on Danny and Dusty, 1080 The Fan.
This is basic thugonomics. This is basic
NBA draft a little under
thugonomics.
3 hours away. Beginning of the 2025 calendar starts in the NBA tonight, and the Portland Trailblazers are currently on the clock with pick number 11.
Whoop, whoop.
And we've gone through the lottery mock for ESPN, and in that mock, Kasparas Giannis, the point guard from Illinois, is the pick that ESPN has for the Portland Trailblazers. I've heard Yegor Demin mentioned to Portland a few times. Jake Fisher and Mark Stein put out their first intel report of the day, and they had intel of Yegor being a potential Portland pick. And again, Yegor was a guy that worked out in Portland. Earlier today, I put out the entire list as I know it to be confirmed of all workout participants that came through Portland. Obviously, I broke the news that Yegor worked out in Portland. But this group, basically everybody that has been linked to Portland has worked out here. So there you go. But all that said,
Ace Bailey hasn't worked out
Ace
anywhere.
Bailey has not worked out anywhere. But with
How
that,
about Paul George calling? Do you see that Paul George he commented on that, like
No.
making demands? Yeah, I actually saw that earlier this morning. He's, like, basically called out Ace Bailey for making demands. It's like, dude, you haven't done anything yet.
yeah, I think there's certainly a lot of players in the
Says the
league feel
guy
like
who
that.
calls himself Playoff P.
Yeah, well,
You never know.
there you go.
Yeah, he said, you're not in a position to be making all these demands. Make it to the league first. His way of going about it is just not right.
Yeah, I think that's not only a general feeling among players, but front offices as well, which is
Mm-hmm.
why the perception is what it is around Ace Bailey. But as it pertains to the Portland Trailblazers,
He also did say he has a lot of talent.
yeah.
So it wasn't just him
No.
crapping on Ace Bailey.
No, it was the handling of stuff.
Yeah.
Which is more directed at his agent than anything else.
I think everybody has said that at some point.
Mhm.
In the league, out of the league, players, non-players, like,
Get
what are
there.
we doing, dude?
Yeah. But the Portland Trailblazers have a point guard mocked to them.
All
and
right.
we discussed earlier in the show, the Portland Trailblazers trading Anthony Simons for Drew Holiday.
Mm-hmm.
So in your backcourt, as of right now, you have Drew Holiday, Scoot Henderson, Shaden Sharp, Matisse Thybulle. If you add Kasparas Giannis or Yegor Demin into that, you are investing draft capital into another guard, which I'm not entirely against if that's the best player on the board. Again, I love Giannis. I think he's going to be a very good player in the NBA.
And he fits that mold of, again, as we said earlier, he fits that mold of what Portland likes in a player. Long,
big, strong, feel, IQ.
Can play downhill.
Mm-hmm. And I think they're leaning more and more into the feel and IQ stuff. Like, I genuinely do. And I think Kasparas and both Yegor fall into that vein. And they do need playmaking and shooting. And while Kasparas' shooting tail off at the end of the year, early in the season, he shot the hell out of the ball before he had an injury to his wrist and his forearm that did ultimately impact him, as well as some confidence stuff. But if they take another guard, another primary ball handler, does that start the clock on Scoot Henderson? Because boy, does that feel like it if you're cycling through a veteran guard, because not necessarily you don't trust wholly Scoot Henderson, but there's certainly the evidence is you don't fully trust
Well,
Scoot
no,
Henderson.
I think we've all seen it.
Yeah.
Like, Scoot has stretches. He has moments where you're like, oh, okay, there's the young buck right there. What? Gosh, it was probably in February when he had that step back 3-pointer take a lead late in the game, and it was like, oh, hey, look at old Scoot. Look at him go.
Was that the Brooklyn game? He ended up going off. They ended up losing the game. Went for 38.
I don't remember who it was against, but
It was in,
he
it was
had
in, it was in that period.
and it was kind of the jump start to one of those stretches where he said, okay, maybe this is the guy that they drafted and they thought they were going to get. Boy, it craters.
And I will say the
craters
Blazers
at
do
times.
believe in Scoot Henderson's shooting ability. Like that is something they believe he will be able to shoot the ball. And of all my quote unquote criticisms of Scoot, you've never heard me really say anything about his shooting, because I do think he'll be able to shoot it at minimum league average and probably above league average.
But this is the thing. I do appreciate that this team is going to be going down the road of, until you prove it, we are going to test you.
Yeah.
And we are going to bring in guys that are going to force you to compete.
Mhm.
And if you don't want to be that guy, then whatever. So be it. So if they go with Demin or Giannis, I'm okay with that, because it's not, hey, we've got this guy, we don't want to hurt his feelings. which is what we saw before.
It's competition. Figure it out.
We're going to bring in enough guys until you can prove to us that we need to stop bringing these guys in. And if Scoot does take a step forward, at that point you go, all right, now we got a luxury. Now we have a luxury, and that is where that was like always the misnomer is that this team was addicted to guards that were 6'4" and under, right? For so long. Well, this would be a drastic change. Scoot is not the biggest point guard in the world.
No, but he's strong as hell.
But you know what? Demon and Yakachonis,
those are big guards.
Big guards.
So 6'6" and 6'9", and Drew's 6'4", 6'5", and strong as a bull.
So what you're doing is you're bringing in a variety of guys saying, we know what we think you can be, Scoot. And by the way,
show it.
Drew Holiday is a awesome person to just point to and be like, if you want to maximize who you can be in the NBA, look at that
That's
dude
the guy.
who plays defense. He takes pride in defense. He is physical. He's a facilitator, and he can knock down open shots.
I had one NBA head coach tell me that he thinks Scoot Henderson got unfairly labeled coming out. He's still going to be a good player, but he believes that he's more Eric Bledsoe. And people might take that as a backhanded compliment.
Dude, before the injuries started piling up,
go look at what Bledsoe was doing. And Bledsoe was a dogged defender. Like, very strong, very physical, but he was a guy that was putting up 20 points and 6 assists while being a good, like, if Scoot Henderson turns into a guy who's like 18-7, 18.7 rebounds, and he's a dogged defender, that's very much Eric Bledsoe / Drew Holiday. You know how many 20-point-a-game seasons Drew Holiday has in his career?
None.
One. And he finished third in scoring on his team behind Anthony Davis and Julius Randle.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But the Drew Holiday at his peak is like a 18-7 guy, which if you're 18-7 and being a plus defender, you're really good.
Yeah, but he also had Anthony Davis and Julius Randle, and those guys don't exist in Portland.
No, but also remember that series against Portland. As much as Anthony Davis got credit, and Dame has told me this numerous times, the first couple years of Dame's career, Chris Paul was the boogeyman. After that, it was Drew Holiday.
Yeah.
Drew was that dude.
God, who was the small forward on that team, too, where it was Drew and him just jumping him at half
Drew and
court.
Rondo were the guys that were doing it the most, but you had Etuan Moore.
Etuan Moore.
Yeah.
Just like I remember Etuan Moore, we're like, what the?
Yeah. You had Anthony Davis roaming the back line saying, we don't care about anything else you do underneath. You had Drew at the point of attack and Rondo pinching in, Etuan Moore pinching in. Like the number of clips from that series where Dame had 4 eyes on him every time he had the ball was insane. It was I've never seen playoff coverage like that for a player that I've like the single player ever. And that was the series that Al-Farouq Aminu shot the living hell out of the ball from 3, and the Pelicans didn't care.
No, they said
shut down the engine and we're fine.
Yeah.
So we're going to keep it in the NBA draft. There, I really want to talk about this because this is right down my lane of nerdiness and analytics. But
great.
The difference in Intel modeling and data and analytics modeling and what those things, how differently they project some of these
start
players.
with what it means?
Yes, I'm going to get into
perfect.
all of that. But first, here's the Big Kuno Sports Center update.
You mind if I have some of your tasty beverage to wash this down?
Now, from the George McCoy at Warren Allen Sports Desk, a Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
First on The Fan, NBA Draft Day is finally upon us. The Trailblazers hold the number 11 pick. The Mavericks all but assured to take Cooper Flagg with the number 1 overall pick. Coverage on 910 ESPN Portland starts at 4:30. Picks begin just after 5 o'clock on ESPN, ABC, and NBA TV. ESPN's Shams Charania reporting the Rockets declining the $44.9 million option on guard Fred VanVleet, but they intend on signing him to a 2-year, $50 million extension to stay in Houston with a player option for that 2026-27 season. Shams also reporting Jazz big man John Collins exercising his $26.5 million option for the 2025-26 season. Mariners have won 4 of their last 5. They are in Minneapolis for another one with the Twins this afternoon. George Kirby starting for Seattle, Joe Ryan for Minnesota. 4:40 first pitch on Root Sports. The Mariners remain second in the AL West, 4.5 games back of the Astros. And in college football, Oregon getting a commitment from 2026 4-star quarterback Bryson Beaver, the 6'3", 200-pound quarterback from Murrieta, California. was being heavily pursued by Ole Miss and LSU. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. I'm Jeff Russ from the George McCoy at Warren Allen Sports Desk. Hurt and missing work, insurance companies acting like jerks. Don't call your mom. Call George McCoy at warrenallen.com.
Do it every morning. Dirt and Spray. Weekdays 6 to 9 a.m. on Portland Sports Leader. 1080 The Fan.
With mock drafts in the NBA, particularly the ones that I've referenced, whether it's ESPN or No Ceilings or Bleacher Report, any of those, they're based on intel and discussions. Now, some people will say, hey, here's my big board, which is like, this is how I rank these players. But there's also people like Kevin Pelton who have analytic modeling to project players and then do a quote-unquote mock draft by the player predictions as opposed to fit, team needs, all those kind of things. And one of the things I love about this is it can get very dicey very quickly on your favorite prospect. So Jesse Fisher on Twitter, he's one of the guys that does the modeling, collected a ton of models across the space. And these models, everybody has their own formulas and algorithms that go behind it. And like with Kevin Pelton's, it's based on historic numbers, based on output in college basketball, height, weight, all the anthropomorphic stuff and everything goes along with that. And then how they project in the NBA based on that production. And that comes from college basketball. It comes from international. It comes from high school profiles. So companies like Second Spectrum, which has become Genius IQ, and Synergy, they have access to all of the high school stuff. Like if I go to Synergy right now, I can pull up high school footage and AAU footage and EYBL footage of basically every prospect in the draft, from like in the most obscure places like U13 and U12 type stuff. It's like, I want nothing to do with it, but you take the data and you kind of feed it in, and it gives you more data and it gives you a longer runway to see the improvement of said players. With that being said, Jesse Fisher compiled, I think it's 14 total analytics models on player projection, and then did a draft slotting according to that. Cooper Flagg is number one in every single one.
Seems about right.
He is a special prospect.
Duke not winning the national championship is a little bit more egregious when you think that the consensus across all of these, Duke had 3 of the top 8 players in college basketball.
And Conca Nipple was on with Bill Simmons, I'll say last week on his podcast, and Bill asked him like, "Hey, how does that game kind of live in your head?" And it's like, Colin's answer was a version of, "If one of 5 things goes a different way, we win that game, and it's going to live with me for the rest of my life." And that's what happens when you're young, though. When you've got 3 of those players in Con Knipple, Con Malowich, and Cooper Flagg, remember
Florida had one.
Remember
one player in
Con
the top
Malowich
30.
not rebounding in that game. Let's say he rebounds in that game, and you don't get an extra possession. Like very, 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 very small things that could change very drastically. Number 2 on the analytics dashboard, VJ Edgecombe. Pretty impressive profile if he's jumping ahead of Dylan Harper. Now, Dylan Harper had some efficiency issues, particularly at Rutgers. Now, Baylor wasn't this offensive powerhouse, but his modeling does project better.
Well, I mean, to put it in perspective, how impressive it is that Cooper Flagg is number 1 in every single model analytically. VJ Edgecombe comes in at 2. His highest ranking was 2. His lowest was 16.
Pretty wide swath.
Right? Like, I mean, in that is where you see so many of these guys. They'll be, they have some 3 in 19. You'll have like 5 in 24. It's crazy the variance that a lot of these
it all
guys
depends
have.
on the recipe that guys are using for their models. And
Yep.
what it kind of highlights the things that those particular models may either under or overvalue, or the thing that person built into that.
But Cooper Flagg is number 1 in all of them.
In all of them. Every single one of them. Number 3, like I mentioned, Dylan Harper. He does have the range from 2 to 19, which is a little bit wider swath than VJ Edgecombe. Number 4, Colin Murray Boyles, and this is the discussion
dude's rise
around him.
has been crazy.
Defensive, I don't think he's the best individual defender in the draft. I think Flagg is going to be that guy. That's for me. If you want to say CMB is your guy, I'm not going to fight you on it too much, because the rim protection part of it, that he's going to be probably better there. But the offense is such a drastic question. But it just shows you his defensive profile. The things there is one thing in college basketball that will always translate. It's the number 1 thing. It's rebounding. And Murray Boyles is a plus rebounder for his size. There's no doubt about that, while also being kind of a defensive savant when you talk about how he measures up to his peers. But when you're talking about the spacing between that, Colin Murray Boyles, his highest ranking is 2, his lowest ranking is 18. But there's a lot of 7 in there. And that shows the offensive limitation ceiling, right? He's very good defensively, but he can't really rise above that in but one model because of the offensive limitations. At number 5, Con Knipple. This shouldn't be surprising to anybody. He was incredibly productive when he took over for Cooper Flagg. When he rolls the ankle in the ACC tournament, becomes the ACC tournament MVP, is the unabashed offensive engine of Duke. It was like, oh, no, this is not he's kind of good. It's like, no, he's really good. But again, we're getting wider and wider. Con ranks 5th overall, with his highest being at 2, his lowest at 15. So you're seeing the swaths just kind of run back and forth. And this is where it gets really interesting. Your next 3 guys, Jace Richardson, the 6-foot guard from Michigan State, Noah Senge, the big forward from Rothier-Farm Ulm, and then Common Malowich. And his size, his defensive rim protection metrics, and everything that kind of feeds into that. You see 3 guys here, 2 with kind of outlier size. Well, actually, all 3 have outlier size, but you've got Jace Richardson at 6 foot, who, despite his production, is probably not going to go any earlier than number 20.
Interesting. Well, it's the size is 100% the
It's a
reason why.
massive hurdle to overcome, because if you look at the players that are 6 foot tall that are successful in the NBA, it is a short list. When you're talking about guys that aren't role players, it's the Mike Conleys. You got to be a special player to be. And that's the thing about Jace. When I asked him about his size, who do you watch? When he said Mike Conley, my eyebrow went up. Okay, so that's that awareness that we're talking about. He's not like, well, I watch a lot of Kobe. It's like, no, dude, you might, but that can't be your game. You're just not able to do that. After that, you have Thomas Sorber, who is the big at Georgetown, who is a guy I can very much, if Oklahoma City moves up, I can see him being the big that they like there.
I have no opinion on him.
6'10", 260 pounds. Big old boy. It's some beef. He had a foot injury that sidelined him, but he was a guy who was probably going to post a double-double in college basketball, which if you can do that as a freshman in college basketball, you're doing pretty damn good. After that, you get Jeremiah Fears, Kasparis Jackson, Asa Newell, Derek Queen, Carter Bryant, and then we get to Ace Bailey and Trey Johnson. Ace Bailey comes at number 15, as high as number 6, as low as 38.
That is the variance, and there's plenty of reason. And this is, like you said, the framing of this is where each analytic model slots these guys in at. There is variance based on what that model covets. And for Ace Bailey, and especially Trey Johnson, look, you can tell the ones that love shooting, he is very high.
Trey Johnson is high as number 3, as low as 51.
Defense.
Playmaking, the other stuff.
Yeah.
He's a bucket getter. But if you value that,
in that,
great.
To me, a guy like Trey Johnson slipping does not mean that he will have a career that is not successful in the NBA. It means that the fit on the team that he goes to may be actually very good, and it works out for him tremendously.
And fit is such a big fit, and context are such huge deals. A guy we've talked about a lot in Yegor Demon, he is next on this list. He is number 17 overall. His highest is 63. His lowest is 6. And that's what you talk about when you get further along in the draft.
Yep.
There's the swath, the range of success, the boom or bust of it all. That's where you start seeing things get wider. And I think that's the things you have to talk about when you're in your draft room, whether you're Portland or any team in the NBA, of like, okay, yes, let's use Yegor as the example here. Let's say Yegor has like the third most potential in this draft outside of Cooper and Dillon, which I believe Kevin Young or BYU's head coach. I'm totally blanking on his name because Young's at Kentucky.
Young's at Kentucky now. Yeah.
Anyways, he said, I think Yegor's got as much talent as anybody in this draft, save Cooper, and I think he put Dylan Harper in there as well.
That says Kevin Young. No.
I'm totally blanking. Either way, my brain is mush right now.
Yeah.
But BYU's head coach is like, I think he has as much talent as anybody in this draft, not named Cooper Flagg or Dylan Harper. If you believe that, what ends up happening is with Flagg, his boom or bust is a lot tighter. His boom is much more likely to occur than his bust. It's a tighter window. With Yegor, let's say that his boom is just a step below Cooper Flagg's. But
Mark Pope is at Kentucky.
I'm sorry, yes. Pope left BYU to go to Kentucky, and then Young stepped in at BYU. But his bust, the range is a lot wider. And that's what I think a lot of the modeling will tell you when you get further down the draft. Yeah, you might have boom potential.
Yeah.
But the likelihood of you hitting that is smaller, and the window for your bust is larger. And so I think those are the kind of things that I really like looking at when you're talking about slotting guys, whether it's your top 100 board, your mock draft, or looking at the analytical models. All right, coming up next as we wrap up the show today, you put it on me. Who do you want to see at that pick, and what do we expect to happen in the NBA draft? We'll get to that next here on Danny and Dusty, 1080 The Fan. As we get out of here today, a little more than 2 hours away from the beginning of the NBA draft. Big day, not only for the Trailblazers, but around the NBA, and the phone continues to buzz and buzz and buzz with all kinds of things of Twitter in the NBA space right now as teams are bunkering up into their war rooms. The leaks are going to get cut off here probably in about 25 minutes as things really start to button up and teams are really putting their nose to the grindstone, as it were, preparing for the NBA draft and what is about to come.
Hopefully there's fireworks tonight, not just in Portland, but around the league. You're seeing the pinch has already started with a lot of teams, Boston specifically. But look, there's a lot of buzz around, the Knicks and Mikal Bridges and Mitch Rob being on the
Knicks don't have a
on the
coach.
table. Yeah, and they are drafting today and do not have. Well, they don't have a first round pick, do they?
I don't think they do.
So I guess they don't need a coach. No sense of urgency there. Who cares? You don't have an identity anyways. Doesn't matter.
I mean, going into the draft in a transaction cycle without having a head coach is certainly interesting.
This is the epitome of when fans want to fire a coach
and you don't
have a plan.
Yep.
You have to have a plan. If you fire a coach, you have to have a plan. Who you going to get?
It's not just vibes.
Because Tibbs agreed, runs guys into the ground. In the playoffs, he gets out coached.
And he also got you further than you've ever been in a quarter century.
You're damn right. And now you're sitting there going, where are we going to go? What are we going to do?
Well, speaking of where are we going to go, what are we going to do? You asked me who I wanted. Who do you want the Blazers to take if they do indeed pick at pick number 11 tonight?
Ooh, see, that's the thing. Fireworks is what I want. I don't, in my perfect world, they make a big deal and they don't even pick at 11. But logic tells me they will be picking at 11. And the more I learn and dive in, the more I like Yakashonis, the Illinois guard. I mean, he fits the identity of what Chauncey Billups wants his point guards to be. I think that also, we talked about this, where Drew Holiday, Scoot Henderson, Shaedon Sharpe, and then Matisse Thybulle being your backcourt guys, add another guy, competition, and see who comes out of it. Because right now you don't have that position where you have full trust in who's going to be that guy in the future. If you can create that competition culture, I think that'll be good because somebody's got to rise above it. And you hope it's going to be Scoot, but if it's the young buck, perfect. Don't be afraid to go there, though. If it's not Kasparas Yakashonis, Yegor Demin.
Okay.
Go with the 6'9" long freak who
bet on the upside.
Bet on the upside and say he's been working to develop a shot. Hopefully that does come around. It's going to be important. But
if he's a 6'9" guy who has his passing ability, and let's say he turns into a plus shooter, even if his rim pressure isn't great, having a guy that can pass over the top of guys like that and be a guy who can toggle on. The question I have is his off-ball fit, because he's never been off-ball in his career.
But they're drafting 11th, so take a flyer and go get it.
Look, I wouldn't be against it. It wouldn't be my first move. I do like Yegor. I do have reservations.
Sure.
I think, honestly, with anybody they pick, I have reservations.
I was going to say, the guys that we're talking about, Carter Bryant, who came off the bench for Arizona, Yakashonis, who had wrist injuries and his shooting went, and you mentioned this earlier, a confidence issue. That crept in. That's pretty significant red flag to have on a guy. And then you have Yegor, who he's got his question marks that are in there, mainly shooting on a team that doesn't have a lot of shooting. But where no matter who they pick at 11, you're going to have questions and people are going to be able to nitpick it, and they will.
Yeah.
This is Portland, where nobody seems to be ever happy with the draft pick. Everybody just freaks out one way or the other. One side will be aggressively optimistic, and the other side is going to be aggressively pessimistic. And that's fandom, and I'm here for it.
I will say this. As it stands right now, I do believe the Blazers are going to use the pick. But I'm not sitting here screaming like I did last year. They're going to use one pick for sure. And figure that out. So on this side of it, I think there's a chance that there is a chance they move it.
Fireworks.
same.
It's almost the 4th of July.
Yeah, it
It's
is.
fireworks time, baby.
All right.
Hey, again, thank you to everybody who came out for the Fan Golf Classic yesterday out at Langdon Farms. Mainly our great sponsors, our presenting sponsor, Wilsonville Toyota, Henderson Daughter Window and Doors, and Philbrook Law. Y'all are awesome. All of our sponsors.
Absolutely.
They were great. Matt's Barbecue knocked it out of the park. The burritos from Victoricos were insanely good. Thank you to everybody who came out. Honestly, it's an awesome day, and we thank you for being out there. Coming up next, you got 4 hours of power from their mouths to your ears. It's prime time with Buck-N-Sook with Ortner on the other side of the glass. Have a great Wednesday, everybody. See you Thursday, noon to 3.
Bye.
I don't think I've ever gotten ball sacked.
Now more than ever, Lowe's knows you don't just want a low price. You want